Welcome back to WPYC. Who popped your culture? Your irreverent trip in the Wayback Machine. Crack open a can of good times and let's flick that bean of nostalgia.
Lick it. I like it. It's nice. I like that you brought back Flick the Bean.
It's too ridiculous. I
Yeah.
had to bring it back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're back. We're back again. Another month down. And this month, we talk about the hardest part of the summer. Going back to school.
In a way, it was the hardest. In another way, you kind of the first week was always okay.
You don't want to go back to school, but you want to see all your friends.
Yeah.
And you want to get new shit.
I was a big back to school shopper. I really was.
Too.
I loved it. What new band shirts can I get?
As you can tell from this fine drip. Like, I like to look good.
Yeah.
And
I'm even rocking a polo today.
Yeah.
Which is not like me.
But it was a big one for me. I've always been a fan, no matter how fucking trashy I generally tend to appear.
Yeah.
Like, I carefully curate that white trash image.
You've got a sense of fashion that can make another man jealous. You do.
I like to imagine that. I like to think that myself. But
I'm just so basic.
Since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Since I was a wee baby Seamus, brother.
Yeah.
Like
but like my wife says, I still dress like a 12-year-old. T-shirt, shorts, flip-flops for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Or, outrageous looking Jordans. That's what I'm comfortable in. When I dress up, I do not feel like I'm in my own skin. Like a wedding, a funeral, bar or bat mitzvah, whatever the case may be, if I have to dress up, I am so uncomfortable and I'm sweating profusely.
When I do it, it's like everything looks normal from the neck down.
Yeah.
From the neck up. When I put on my pinstripe 3-piece, just like, oh, well, you clean up. Well, what the hell's with the fucking hillbilly beard?
And dude, if I have to wear a tie, that top button is not buttoned. I can't do it. I feel like I'm being strangled.
I got a pretty thick neck myself.
Yeah.
So finding, especially off the rack.
Oh,
finding
it's brutal.
Finding a shirt that will fit my neck that won't go down to my knees.
Yeah.
Is very tough.
And then you gotta figure in the arm length,
right.
Like
I have figured out and found I figured out. I found a brand that allows me to close the neck.
Okay.
That hangs perfectly. And I like wearing ties as long as I can close the neck. If I'm not going to button the top button, then I shouldn't. I just no tie.
When I worked at a country club, I discovered the art of being able to hide it where it looked like it was buttoned with a tie on without it being buttoned. I have a thick neck. And I'm like, because my body's shaped so weird, like I have a small torso and my arms are fairly long, but then I also have the dad beard gut. So it's like, I got to figure that out. Like you're better off if you can do a tailored affair, go for it. But obviously not all of us are financially stable enough to do that kind of shit. And granted, I don't go out and into enough situations where I have to dress up enough. But when I do, you can just tell, like you said, neck up. You can tell by the look on my face, I'm just uncomfortable, and I've got swamp ass so bad.
Yeah, the back, like going back all the way, like that was I used to get dressed up for the first day, like slacks, fucking button-down shirt. Like it was an event for me.
You were showing off.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
First day of school, picture day, always dressed up.
The funny thing is, picture day, I never did, because it like that the polish had worn off by that point. Like picture day, I was like, we're talking middle October. I'm done already.
Yeah, you've seen one of my picture day pictures from when I was a wee little lad.
Yeah,
it's pretty hysterical.
I will see if one day I'll fucking have my mother scan. I had a Ralph Lauren polo shirt that was like,
shout out to Ralph Lauren if you want to sponsor this show,
of the like top old school top quality.
Yeah,
this thing would not fucking die. And when I got it new, it was big, and I fucking wound up wearing that shirt for like 4 picture days in a row.
Dude, I still have shit from like junior high that I can still wear.
My head just grew. Like I grew into like I went from baby fat to like, you know, teenager. Like I went from I documented puberty through picture days and that shirt. But I didn't give a shit. That was like that picture day. By the time picture day rolled around, I didn't give a shit anymore. Like I fucking hated school. Like I loved it, but I hated it.
Yeah, I hated
like
school,
the school aspect of it. Not a fan.
And before we get too deep into school, where can the fine folks that listen and watch this, all podcast platforms, by the way, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and leave a little review ski. It doesn't have to be top notch. If honest, I want honest reviews. If there's something we do that you like, let us know. Something we don't do that you don't, or there's something that we do that you don't like, let us know. I want to be able to fix if something's broken. And same goes for YouTube. Subscribe, all that shit. You know what all the YouTube kids say. But where can they go to get Who Popped Your Culture merchandise?
All right. So if you want to send your kid to school looking flyer than hell, you go to mudamerch.com, mudamerch.com, and pick yourself up a Who Popped Your Culture shirt. There are many to choose from at this point in time. The last one being the Baja Maniacs.
Shout out to the Bahamas.
Represent our fine listeners down there in the islands. Representing.
I'm fans of theirs.
Fucking A. I mean, how great would it be? First live Who Popped Your Culture ever is down in some like tiki bar in Bahamas.
Love it. I can't wait to get to the point where I get to do live shows like that.
Right? How awesome would that be?
Be so fun.
And then we just fly in and everybody's like, who the hell are you? And then it'll be some resort employee just like, holy shit, it's Tommy and Muda.
It's Mr. Burt and Mr. Dolly.
Yeah. He's like, this is unexpected, but we're gonna have a good time. I don't know when it's gonna happen.
It'll happen eventually. I'm
gonna say no earlier than 5 years from now.
Hey, that's a goal to look forward to.
If the world still exists, we're gonna work on it.
I hope so. Not for my sake, for my children's sake. I hope so. Hopefully one of them can have a hand in making it better.
That's what we do. That's it.
Don't want to sing the song and get copyright dinged, but you get the point.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. Back to school, dude. Like I was saying, I loved like the first day, probably even the first week, especially when I was younger. Which when I was young, like I always lived like near my friends. So it wasn't necessarily I didn't get to see my friends. And then in high school, you know, everybody's kind of got cars and everybody's zooming around. So you get to see your friends, but then there's always like a couple of people that you didn't see, or like in my case, like I was gone a lot, especially my teenage years. So I didn't get to see, you know, my friends that I went to school with. And then you get to tell tales of the summer and, you know, all that good stuff. But yeah, especially, dude, when I got into like high school, I was so checked out. I knew I wasn't going to college.
Right.
Kids, go to college, please. And then like, especially my senior year, the first day I found out I wasn't graduating, and I was like, ew. Well, at first I was fucking emotionally distraught.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I called my mom, I was like, can you just check me out so I can leave? Because I don't even want to be here right now. Like I couldn't even like hold myself together. Um and then I just started skipping all the time. And if to my kids, if you're listening to this or watching it, and I know you do, uh, that's not me saying that it's okay for you to do it. Okay. So don't even ask.
Do as I say. Do as I say.
Not as I do or did. Yes. I'm a firm believer in that statement, especially now.
It was yeah, man. I just think if that cliff-like fall off after about 9:30 a.m. on the first day of school. It's about it for me. Like that's
Did you
like you
guys
get
do
that.
like assemblies and stuff to kick off the school year? Like early in
No,
the
I mean
morning?
maybe like fuck. I don't think ever. I don't think we ever
Yeah.
did.
I think we did like
But
starting in like middle school.
we always had as soon as you got off the bus, it was they like kind of corralled everybody. Like my elementary school wasn't so huge. That lobby was massive for
Yeah.
that. But it was like they corralled all the students into the lobby. Like everybody except like everybody over like third grade. I think pretty much all the kindergartners, first graders, and second graders, maybe the third graders too, would all kind of like go to their classrooms immediately. But like yeah, all the older kids in elementary school would just corral in the lobby. And then it was pretty much that all the way through middle school, middle school, high school, only it was spread out. Like you could just go and like hang out at your locker before homeroom. And that was where all the cliques would form.
Yeah.
But yeah, like first day of school I remember in high school, especially because I too was checked out for the majority of it. I've just never been, I'm not very academic.
Yeah. Got a lot of street smarts, but not so much book smarts.
It's a, have you ever watched the Gilmore Girls?
No. I mean, I've seen
All
like
right.
I saw when like Sebastian Bach was on it,
Yeah.
but I haven't really.
There's a character, he's like one of the primary secondary characters.
Okay.
At one point he's arguing with a principal and he's just like, I'm the one that they stamped trade school on his permanent record. That was me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that even though I've got a sordid history with guidance counselors, and the one from high school was especially like, I hope she burns in the ninth circle of fucking hell. Like I hate her guts so bad. But it was like, so that was it, so like all the subjects and stuff, like English and history and art, obviously, like I mean that's my jam. Why would I be putting my face on the internet and having this conversation if I wasn't more into entertaining and shit like that? But like I struggled all through school. Every year I got by the skin of my teeth. I probably should have stayed back like 3 years. But it was just the worst. That part of school was the worst. And you've got, once your cliques form and you've got your fucking bullies and shit like that, like I was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I was what I like to call a floater. I had my regular clique in high school that was my hang, and even middle school, junior high, which I kind of like flip-flopped around because some of them got like further into like drug use and stuff, and I was like, I'm not into that shit. So like I started pulling back and then like found another clique. But like high school was established. Like this is like my homeroom clique.
Mm-hmm.
And then, throughout the day, I always had friends in every class because I was such a over the top personality even then, where I can be friends with everybody. Like I don't care how much money your family has, if they're rich, if they're, middle class, lower middle class, poor, it didn't matter to me. It was all about who can I have a conversation with and get along?
Yeah.
Like, you had your rich kids, you had, and the jocks for the most part were the rich kids, and I played sports, so that helped. But then I was also like friends with like the quote unquote skanks,
Yeah.
which was always like the funniest term to put on somebody because 9 times out of 10, those kids already had it figured out.
Oh, yeah.
Like they knew where they stood in society. Like they're like, I'm not ever gonna be like the CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go work at a fucking, whatever, the boat shop or whatever.
Yeah.
Or but it was like I like hanging out with them because you can have a conversation.
Right.
The rich kids are just talking about how much money their fucking dad has and how many businesses he owns. Fuck that. I don't care. You giving me money? No? Okay, then I don't want to have this conversation.
The economic disparity between or in all of my hometowns is pretty stark.
How many times did you move throughout your school years?
Well, I went from it's just 2. Like
okay.
so I have the Fishkill hometown and Poughkeepsie hometown.
Right. So I moved.
I started in Fishkill, and then after at middle school, I went to. So I was only in Fishkill for elementary school.
Yeah.
And then I went the middle and high school was in Poughkeepsie. But in both towns, like the economic disparity is pretty stark.
Yeah. I had 3 different first grades.
Okay.
I moved 3 times in first grade. That's around the time where my parents had already been divorced, but it gotten to the point where it was bad. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of moving around. And then so when we finally got to where we are, I was a little older. But so the elementary here does 1st through 5th, and then you have middle or 1st through 4th, and you have middle school that's 5th, 6th, and 7th. Then you had junior high, which is another building that was 8th and 9th, which technically 9th should be in the high school because you're a freshman. And then the senior high, which was 10, 11, 12. That's kind of what I was trying to figure out, like how the school weird. Buildings were broken up for you.
Elementary was K through 5, middle was 6 through 8, and high was 9 through 12.
Which was another weird thing because kindergarten was closer to, it was like outside of the middle school. And the elementary school here is on the other side of town. Which I didn't go to elementary here. I didn't move here till 6th grade. Okay. So it was weird to me. I'm like, you have this many fucking shits going on? And actually at the time when I first moved here, 4th grade was its own building. So like the buses were zooming everywhere, but the middle school was the meetup for like when you get on your bus to go home.
Right.
So like you'd ride from the high school, you would ride to the middle school. From junior high, you would ride to the middle school, so on and so forth.
That's
I think they did it because it was easier for their kindergartners to get on
maybe
the bus.
But otherwise, so just like
it's too much going on. Just let me get on my bus and go home. So I'd get out of school 3:10. I wouldn't get when I did ride the bus. Mm-hmm. I quit riding the bus in like junior high, but when I would get off the bus, like we get out of school 3:10, I'm not getting home till 4:30 because I lived a little further out. So I'm like, fuck, man, got to do homework or whatever, which I rarely did. Again, kids, you're doing your homework. Like I'm like, fuck, the fucking day is over. That was my big thing. Is like, and I was pretty good. Like I never had a set bedtime. I just kind of knew when I needed to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then like obviously like high school, even school nights, I'm doing a little partying or whatever.
Yeah.
Staying up way too fucking late. And still go, but I'd still get up and go to school because I knew, I did this to myself, like I have to go.
Oh yeah. I probably for the last 3 years of my high school career, I probably got on an average 3 hours of sleep a night. I was big into trucker speed in high school.
Yellow Jackets.
I did. Yeah. Yellow Jackets, Black Beauties, Stackers.
Shout out.
I would go, like, once I had my best friend, he'd pick me up. Like, I lived less than a quarter mile away from the front door of the school. But he'd come and pick me up. We'd run down to the 7-Eleven. We'd get a 1 liter bottle of Mountain Dew, a king size Snickers bar, and then if we were out, we'd get Yellow Jackets, Black Beauties, and Stackers. And that was it. It was that, and like that was my breakfast every day for like 2 years before at one point it was so bad. I remember I didn't shit for like 2 weeks, and I was just like, this has got to stop.
Dude, when I was in school, I'd shit like once every 3 days. It was so weird. Because now I can't go a day without taking a dump. So weird how that, I don't know if I just ate worse then, because I have days where I eat like shit, but for the most part I try to eat somewhat healthy, especially in the summer because I'm always grilling something. But uh yeah, it was just weird. Maybe it was the school food, when
Could
I
have been.
ate, because like in high school, it was different. If I got lunch money, I was saving that. That was beer money on Friday.
Yep. But yeah, and like I was saying before, the economic disparity, fucking, like it was, and it the divide was much wider in high school.
Yeah.
And then it was like all the rich kids were the jocks. You had a couple, like there was a couple of jocks in the outcast crew, because that was another thing. My high school, we were, and like I know the towns by you are generally smaller, so it might sound like I've got a lot of people, but like I graduated in a class of 92, and the whole school had just breached 500 kids for the first time.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, so it was small. Like, I mean, like the first school district, the one where I went to elementary school, that high school that I would have gone to if I stayed there, they had their graduating classes were bigger than the entire population of the school I graduated from.
Right. Like where like I said, I didn't graduate, but my graduating class, we had 260.
Okay.
So, and then my wife, who lived in an adjacent town where we live now, I live in the town she grew up in. Her graduating class was like 28. So very small. And that's where my kids go to school now. And like, I wish I would have went here as opposed to the bigger school. I think I would have done a lot better.
Right.
Because I was that kid that needed that one-on-one time. Plus, also, I probably should have gotten glasses or contacts a lot earlier than I did because I couldn't read the board.
Yep.
So that was a lot of my issues. My mom didn't get it, and I was always complaining about headaches and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't get my first pair of glasses until I was 17. It was too late at that point.
Yeah.
So thanks, Mom. Kind of put the blame on you.
But yeah,
yeah.
And it was a weird. We had a one amorphous group of weirdos.
Yeah.
Because all of the separate groups of weirdos were too small.
Right.
So like
they all kind of found each other.
Pretty much.
So like, your emos, your goths, your skaters.
Yeah, and like that was when I was at my peak in high school, like I was some weird amalgamation of all of those things.
Right.
But it was, like we got, when we were younger, we got fucked with. But Columbine happened when I was a freshman, so that kind of, the kibosh got put on that real quick.
Yeah.
Everybody was afraid. Everybody was afraid that we were gonna pop off. I actually even got called to the police station.
Wow.
At like 10 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, because some kid thought we were gonna pop off, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
I'm just like, I was in bed. I was wearing nothing but boxer shorts in bed, And then my mother burst into the room like, we have to go to the police station right now. And I'm like, what?
Because you're a little asshole.
Right. I'm like, I was like 14.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
So
that,
like,
yeah, that was a big moment though when
it was
we
massive.
were kids. Yeah.
Everything changed after that.
Everybody was freaked out.
But as everything kind of moved on, and the people that made that call graduated, and once they graduated, it was just like, we would have never done that, but one day we're gonna kick your fucking ass.
Yeah.
And we're not going to do it on school property, because what you did was fucked up, and with no like, for no good reason. But then everything kind of meshed together, because you know what it was? Gym class. Gym class brought everybody together, because we
were all the same.
There was a fair few athletic weirdos, because that was the era of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. So like, we had tons of skateboarders, tons of skateboarders,
Jinkos, the whole nine. Yeah.
And there's nothing short of skateboarding is nothing short of athletic.
Yeah.
Like, it takes that kind of shit. It takes that kind of.
You have to be athletic with skill to skateboard to that level.
And so we had a ton of soccer players in the skate crew. I played everything. Like, that was,
I was not a soccer guy.
Well, no, I mean, I'd kick the ball around. I wasn't good at it, but I grew up playing hockey, baseball, football, stuff like that. Like, just in the neighborhood, in that OG neighborhood in Fishkill. It was it. If the weather was nice, or there was fresh snow on the ground. Like, fresh snow meant snow football.
Yeah.
Fucking, if the weather was nice, it was baseball, football, hockey, street hockey, ice hockey in the wintertime when the ponds froze over.
Yep.
Like, it was. So yeah, that was in my blood. Both my parents were varsity athletes. My mother played softball well into her 40s. Still bowls competitively. My father could have gone pro. He could have gone pro bowling. But
my parents were both on a bowling team too. Like, I still have their trophies and their bowling balls actually.
And my old man was like, they like, a scout approached him, and he's just like, nah, I don't want to travel.
And my dad was scouted in hockey.
Yeah.
My mom was a lettered in basketball and tennis. Yeah. So yeah, athletics were big.
Yeah. And so that was and also, like, once I hit puberty and I stretched out, like I wasn't carrying a bunch of extra, like, baby fat and weight and stuff. I really turned it up in gym class. And I used to be like, dude, maybe we'll get into it next week for the next segment. I don't know. But the gym teachers, man, they fucking hated me. They loved, like, and the relationship was love-hate.
Yeah.
Because I would never change. Because I mean, like, we didn't do anything. Every once in a while, we would do something.
Oh, you wouldn't change into like gym clothes?
Right. I'd have sneakers on.
Yeah.
I'd have sneakers on. And for the most part, that weird amalgamation of all the weirdos look that I had conjured, if you will, was mostly like gym shorts.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be just like layers of gym clothes.
Yeah.
And it looked weird. But yeah, we'd go into something. It'd be softball. I'd be like smacking dingers into the woods on purpose. And like, I got detention for every one after the first one.
What?
And yeah.
Just because they had to chase the balls down, or what?
No, because they were gone.
Oh.
Like, the woods were thick. Like,
gotcha.
it was like a hill, and it was like pricker bushes and shit like that. So every ball
that the school money.
Yeah, every ball that I dinged into the woods, that was the teacher would just be like, "Don't do that again." I'm like, "All right."
Showing off my power, coach.
I was just like, "All right, I promise," because they were those stupid rubber balls.
Yeah,
and he just lofted it right in over the plate, and I just fucking pow. Like, Braun Strowman, just cranking it.
Don't put it in my sweet spot, and it won't go that far.
Yeah, yeah. It's like if you don't want these in the woods, then why are you just handing it to me?
Yeah, pitch to me like a man. Come on.
And I would do this, and I would also do this weird, like I'd run the bases because he'd just sit there following me all the way around, like it with his eyes.
Yeah.
And I just like direct eye contact all the way around with this like wise ass smirk on my face. And yeah, I mean I was an angsty kid, and the gym teachers, like of all the things, like I like they gave me shit, and nobody demanded more respect than the PE teachers.
Oh, for sure, man. They were fucking over the top when we were kids.
Nobody demanded more respect than the PE teachers, and they didn't show me any reason why I should.
Yeah.
So
they were always assholes.
So yeah, I had 3 throughout high school. I had 3 PE teachers. One of them loved me.
Yeah.
Because of my PE teacher in middle school, who was it was the mother of a girl that started fresh in that school the same time as me. We got stuck in the back corner of the room, and like she was just this nerdy girl, and but like nobody talked to her, nobody talked to me, so we talked to each other, and
you had a common bond.
Right. We had that, that we're both new at the same time. Her mother wound up being my confirmation teacher in Catholic school, all that stuff. And then she was my gym teacher. She thought I was
she wanted you to marry her daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
She was disappointed. Like once we got into high school, she kind of, the girl grew up, and like she kind of like, she became a cheerleader, and she fell in with that crowd. And every time her mother saw me, she was just like, I wish you and her would hang out more. I'm like, I tried, lady. I'm like, I tried, lady.
I'm gonna get you a little poochie in.
Yeah. Little pack of lip there.
Oh, good.
Lipper.
I don't remember where I was going with what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, PE teachers. So later on, when like I started playing football and stuff, it was cool because our PE teacher was also one of the football coaches.
Yep.
So if you played football, you were fine.
Yep.
And like junior high into high school, like if you played football, you were good. And then one of my coaches ended up becoming the assistant principal. So anytime I got busted for skipping, like he was just like, come on. He's like, come on. You know, you're
better than this.
Yeah. He's like, did I not
get caught next?
Did I not help teach you with your parents any morals and respect for the school? I'm like, no, you didn't. You taught me how to fucking do a swim move and fucking get around somebody, make a fucking tackle. No, you didn't teach me anything about life. You swinging your fucking whistle and hit me in the fucking ear hole in my helmet? No.
Yeah.
Fucking dick. Dude, you know how many times I thought I was deaf from that kind of shit?
Oh yeah, that'll ring your bell. And for sure. Yeah. That's not fun.
No,
when anything hard hits your helmet, it's not fun.
Especially in the heat, you gotta dip in. That was another thing, man. When we were kids growing up and playing football and stuff, we had 2-a-days. They were fucking miserable. I'm happy that I did it because that did teach me a lot of shit, like how to hydrate.
Yeah.
But I'm glad kids don't do it anymore because it would be rough. Yeah.
Fucking especially dead of August.
This summer.
Dead of August?
I would have been laid out. And there was a couple of kids that did, like they had to call like ambulances or shit, like once a week almost. Kids having heat strokes and shit.
Yep.
And it fucked them up later on too. That was the worst part. So it had like lasting effects on them.
I never really enjoyed football.
I loved it,
but it mostly just because I tried to play line.
Yeah,
and I was not the right size for that.
I wasn't either, dude. I was small. Like, I mean, obviously I'm short. I've talked about it every day of my life, but like I was O-line and D-line.
Yeah.
But the good part about it was I'm shorter to the ground, lower to the
Right.
ground. So that
Lower
helps.
center of gravity.
Yeah. And also I was quick.
Yeah.
Until I broke my leg. Then that kind of slowed me down a little bit. But like if I was playing D line, like I could get to the quarterback quick.
Yeah.
So dude, I loved football. I wish I would have played basketball longer into high school, but that group was super clicky.
Yeah.
And I wasn't into that when it came to sports, really, because you're supposed to be a team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, basketball was out for me. Loved baseball. Didn't get to play it as much because I was gone. I played it as long as I could. But yeah, so that sucked. But always loved baseball. And then another thing we could talk about before we move on for this session. What were like the local hangouts for the school kids for you guys?
For me and my crew,
Yeah.
there was a alcove in the woods behind the school.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was like the school owned like all the way to the road, and there was just like we're talking northeast, so
Yeah.
dense maples.
Right. Is that
so
where you guys are
were
going to rip heaters, or is that where you're going like after school?
Both, because there was a trail that led to it. But it was like it was like 20 feet off the road.
Right.
And we could just sit up there. We could just like sit up there ripping butts all day after school.
Yeah.
And like nobody would know the difference.
Right.
And we could do it in the rain too.
Yeah.
Because we had a very thick canopy over over our heads as long as the leaves were there. So like after fall, it kind of, we'd find some other place, find somebody with absentee parents with a basement to just go, we'd go there, grab the after school bus.
Blacklight posters.
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon was probably involved somehow.
Sometimes. But with that crew, it was mostly like hardcore and heavy metal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We did a lot of that. Started a band, fucking like there's a bunch of.
What grade did you start your first band?
Oh, I think I was Christ.
Because I think mine was 8th or 9th. Might have been 9th. I know I was still in the junior high building. I think it was 9th.
We started talking about it in middle school.
Yeah.
First practice was sophomore year.
Yeah.
And like never played out.
Yeah.
We recorded a lot, like just like camcorder stuff.
Yeah, we did
like
too.
Most
had like your own documentary.
most of our performances were recorded for school projects.
Did you ever get to play at the school, like talent show or anything?
No, absolutely not. They were like big time on the kibosh with that band. They were like, absolutely not.
Yeah,
this is inappropriate. We're like, it's music.
Yeah.
How can it be inappropriate? Like we weren't no cursing or anything like that.
Yeah.
We left it out,
All covers? Did you do originals?
No, they were originals.
Oh wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
My first band, we were all strictly covers.
They were terrible.
Yeah.
All 3-chord, like just like simple
Punk.
stuff. You could like mostly. I mean, that's all hardcore really is.
It's just
punk with
aggressive
heavy
punk.
distortion.
Yeah.
But the screaming.
Yeah.
Like that's every vocal that I've ever done has been like,
I've seen videos.
Yeah. Degrees of screaming. Like it started out, it was mostly just yelling. Then I just developed my rasp. And then by the time it was over, like I could hold my own with death metal and black metal vocalists.
Yeah.
But that was the hangout, like we didn't really have any. It was like towards the end of high school, we'd start going to once everybody started driving, we started going to the pool hall. We'd go there, and then like I when I started doing the haunted house, I started making friends outside of my district, and I spent a lot of time just down there, pretty much in my old stomping grounds.
Yeah,
like the district that I would have gone to high school at, I was hanging out with those people.
So you kind of knew them for the most part.
No, I didn't. I didn't know any of these people. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
remember I ran into a couple people that I went to elementary school
That's
with.
that's what
They
I
kind
meant.
of passed through. They passed through that group, but they never stuck around.
Oh, okay.
And then I wound up making friends with people that I would have gone to high school with if I stayed in that.
That you would
Like
have been friends with anyways had you
one
stayed.
of one of my best friends, a kid named Doyle, R.I.P. His dad went to school with my dad.
Oh, okay.
Like later on in my 20s, I talked to this guy and he's like, dude, I've known you for years and it drives me nuts every time I see you. Like you look you like I know you from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you went to Jay, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, what year did you graduate? He's like, 79. And he's the same age as my parents. I'm like, 79, you went to Jay. I'm like, you know my dad, probably. So I told him his name and he's just like, get the fuck out of here. Like dude, it blew his mind.
Yeah.
He's like, we never hung out together, but we always went to the same parties.
Yeah.
Like their circles overlapped because he was a jock too. So like my dad was, well, he wasn't varsity level, but he had an inverted heart. And
Mm.
so that disqualified him from any official school sports.
Oof.
So like if it was a club, he could play because it was like it had the
It
school's
wasn't
name on it.
regulated by the school.
Him and his buddies started the hockey club.
Oh, okay.
So like him and 5 of his buddies, he played goalie, and they started the hockey club for that school, which is now still going strong.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was yeah, I floated a lot towards the end of my high school career.
Yeah.
But it always just wherever they'd be the skanks of your school. Like we were the skanks of our school, or the skids if you're a Letterkenny.
Yeah, skids.
Fan.
Yeah.
No meth,
No,
thankfully, but
yeah.
plenty of weed.
Stay away from that. Yeah.
Plenty of weed.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, but stay away from that.
Weed and booze. We used to. Oh my god, we'd sneak like vodka in Tupperware.
Mm-hmm.
Like I cannot believe that's like the strength to kind of bring it back to nostalgia a little bit. Tupperware, the strength of OG Tupperware. Like we'd get those like the cups that were about, I don't know, probably like 12-ounce, 16-ounce tumblers. But
Yeah.
they had a lid, and that lid would stay on in our backpacks, and we'd like nip out to the bathroom and like take a swig of vodka.
I remember
school.
I remember being on the bus going to school, and I was sitting next to this girl, and she pulls out this little pint bottle of fucking hot damn. She's like, you want to swig? And I'm like, fuck yeah, let's party.
Yeah.
That for whatever reason always sticks out in my mind because it was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would do like vodka and like Mountain Dew bottles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And put those in our bags. But yeah, I mean, those old Tupperwares were fucking industrial strength at that point.
Yeah, man. That was like a lock, like a locking lid.
When I moved here, the hangouts were like the city park that they ended up having to put like a little skate park in the back because all the skaters would go there, especially like on the weekends and in the summertime. And then we had 2 movie theaters, and then the big hangout though was the roller rink, dude.
Yeah.
And they'd have the lock-ins in the summer, and like, the hits of the fucking mid to late 90s were always bumping. And
oh yeah.
Oh man, those lock-ins were fun. But I remember the last one I went to was 9th grade, summer after 9th grade, and my girlfriend had just broke up with me. So I go just like, whatever, I got to get out of the house. I got to get her out of my head, not knowing she would be there with my best friend. So that in turn strained our relationship. Never talked to him again. Literally my best friend, like we hung out at each other's house every fucking weekend, like partying together. Like it was nuts. I'm like, how could you do this to me, man? We're best friends. You're like my brother. Like you call my mom.
Yeah.
Like, I did end up talking to him. His mom got in a car accident. She passed away. I actually left work early one day to go to her funeral. That was the next time I talked to him, and that was I was 25,
Hmm.
24, something like that. Or no, it was before Amanda. So 22.
It's funny how that works in school though. Like, actually, it's different. It was different for me. Because I like I said, it was such a small school
Mm-hmm.
that it was inevitable. You couldn't, like, if you wanted a relationship, you're gonna wind up with one of your
Dating
buddy's exes.
somebody that
You
you're,
know,
yeah.
it was just it was what it was. You could
Yeah.
let it go a lot easier, or
And
I could
that, yeah, it's
then.
easier. Yeah.
And once I got into my 20s, it was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. That's
Like,
fucked up.
as we matured as people, and like the relationships got serious, and like the breakups were a little more heated.
And it's so weird
Then
because
then you started cutting people off, or I started cutting
dating
people off.
dating in high school and even after high school, every girlfriend I ever had uh cross paths with somebody I was friends with.
Yeah,
Not necessarily like close knit friend, but like a friend
yeah,
that
for
I
sure.
considered a friend. So I remember out of when I first got out of high school, I was dating the same girl that I was in high school with. We moved out of town. We moved into a house together. She came back. She was like, I can't do this, whatever. So she starts dating a dude that I played football with, which we
Hmm.
weren't close, but it was weird. Um, and then the girl I dated after that, she was in another district, but she kind of ran around like with the same people, like the parking lot crowd
Yeah,
on the weekends. So I knew her through other people, but like then I found out who she dated, and I was like, ugh, like, that's not cool. But like even Amanda, she knew people that I went to, like some of the people in my group, even
yeah,
that maybe not I wasn't as close with, but they were like acquaintances.
sure.
And then I was like, not a fan, but whatever. It's funny how that kind of stuff works out, though.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely gotta. There's a little more of a tolerance
Mm-hmm.
when you're younger.
Yeah,
The tolerance went away pretty quick.
I think back to school because I mean this can be a longer one, especially since we started so early.
Yeah.
I almost kind of want to do like music and movies
Oh, yes. Let's do it.
of school years.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think that's a good
I
idea.
mean, music got me through.
Mm, it
Music
was
got me through from all
I
the way
love
back.
music so much now, like especially as an adult. Like I appreciate stuff that I didn't like when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
But like when I was in school, that's it. Music was everything. I
Yeah.
mean I watched movies, but I would rather listen to music.
Yeah.
And I'm still that way, honestly.
I always loved movies,
Yeah.
obviously. Like like growing up with WPIX and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like it was a big one. But the like, I mean, there's when when the pop stations, like the classic pop
Mm-hmm.
stations, every once in a while, like there's a radio, because the bathroom at work was like so dead silent that like it just was awkward. So
Yeah.
a guy that no longer works there, he brought in this like old ass alarm clock, like clock radio, and put it in there, and
It's
it's
a clock
always changing.
radio. Clock
People are
radio.
all yeah, people are always changing the station. Every once in a while you go in there and it's like, yeah, it's like classic pop,
Yeah.
and it's shit from like the early 90s, and it just brings me right back to the school bus.
Oh, I can't
Like
wait to talk about it. There's
yeah,
so
puts
many bands and records that I want to
oh
talk
yeah.
about.
And then in high school when things kind of like when the angst kept building and building and building, my tastes changed. Hanging out with the skater kids, learning about hardcore and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It all kind of yeah, man. Like it got me through. The movies were always there, but the music is what got me through the school day. Got it, lady.
Got it. Robot lady. AI lady. AI woman.
We need a wipe.
A what?
We need a wipe.
A
Like
wipe.
I need to make a who popped your culture wipe. So then when we go from one week to the
Oh,
next week,
gotcha.
we just be like,
Gotcha. Yeah,
like
yeah.
or like that
Slide. Yeah.
with the fuck.
Yeah.
I might just make it that. I might just fucking pull that the Batman sound and do the spinning logo to the
I
screen
like
and back.
that. I like that a lot.
That way we
Big
can
Batman guy.
we have a nice nice smooth transition from why we're dressed differently
Yeah, transitional slide.
for the 9 people who actually watch the podcast.
You know,
It is what it is.
It's taking time.
We
But we'll
haven't
get
done
there.
we haven't done the YouTube work. We're great on audio. We've got faces for radio.
Yeah, for sure.
But so we're back
Yeah.
from our break.
Hey,
And
we're
then-
recording 2 weeks in a row. That's hey, we're back to something, you know?
Yeah.
The last few months have been touch and go, especially last month.
Yeah.
But we're back.
We're back. We talked about our experiences in school last week. This week we're gonna go through the things that got us through them.
Yeah.
Because that was it. Like movies, we'll talk about movies at the end, and then I mean that was always a part, as I'm sure nobody's surprised to hear after listening for what are we on 8?
8, yeah.
But the music,
and this is something new. This is something new. We actually probably could have done it for the camp and the / summer, because that it was kind of a 2-parter in a way.
Both
and
of
this
us
is like the end of the trilogy, like the summer months. So
yeah, and then like both of us are huge music guys.
Oh,
we just
like
show.
I love music more than movies, honestly.
It's more important.
Yeah. I can live without watching a movie. Like TV, that's one thing, because I like to watch it at bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually, you know, a rotation of the same shows that I've seen a million times. But like sports and music are the top 2 for me.
Yeah.
Most
I mean,
important.
I don't have
after family and all that stuff, but
I don't have time to watch movies and TV like I used to.
Yeah.
Unless I'm like a lot of it, just like you watch the same things that I watch over and over again. And to the point where like I can throw it on in the background and just like close, like open a window, play my favorites, and then close the window. And I've seen it so many times where I know exactly what's happening.
Right. You don't even have to see it. You can just hear it.
But the music that's a big part of it, because there's almost no movie or TV or whatever will have an underlying score, and that it's almost a character in and of itself if it's done correctly. So you're always going to have some kind of music happening, whether you're watching TV, watching movies, or listening to music. So but the music is what I mean, especially in school days, music is what gets you through.
Mm-hmm. Whether you're like I talked about before we started recording, on the bus to school, on the bus home from school, your mood can change. I was that kid with the big binder full of fucking CDs, and I'd flip through them. I always carried a duffel bag. I never used a regular backpack. I always had like a gym bag. And it probably a lot of my issues now between my back and my knees and hips are from carrying that on one side.
Just can't leave the house without my entire CD collection.
But I need my entire CD collection because I never know what mood I'm going to be in. And that was always the hardest part, I remember, because like getting on the bus in the morning, it's like, what do I want to listen to? Like I never thought about it like beforehand, like showering, getting dressed, getting stuff together. I've never been a breakfast person, so I didn't have to worry about that. But you think at some point in my school career, I would have been like, maybe I should have something picked out to open up with from get-go.
Yeah.
But with, the magic of the Discman, and I had a yellow Walkman, I remember prior with the cassettes. But with the Discman, you could skip tracks. And then you listen to 2 or 3 from one album. And then, I had a longer bus ride. It was like half an hour, 45 minutes. So I had time I could get through a full album a lot of the time if I wanted to, or I could skip, have a couple here and there, and then change it out. And then, you have a bad day at school. You want something kind of wind you down or pump you back up for whatever you're doing after school, depending on the day. Fridays were always big. I wanted something to pump me up because chances are I was either going to somebody's house or they were coming to my house to hang out for the weekend. So, yeah.
So the first half of my musical journey or whatever was all entirely based on the world around me. Like when I was a kid, nobody was choosing or like I wasn't choosing what I wanted to listen to. In my house, it was doo-wop.
Yeah.
Like my dad was, I may have mentioned it in a previous episode, but like my
I
dad
think
was like an
we
old school
discussed
guy. Like
Motown at one point.
it's a good possibility. And he had a 57 Bel Air that was mint for a long time before I was born. And then like once the responsibilities of having a kid started to pop up, the car kind of went to hell. But like that was his deal. Like he was like the very much like the American Graffiti kind of like that was his personality. You know, like he missed that. He was born in 1960, so he missed that. You know, he didn't kind of get his identity until the 70s. But he was very, very characteristically nostalgic for the time right before he was born, very similar to myself. But he listened to, he listened, it was essentially the American Graffiti soundtrack, but it was like he got, you remember those old infomercials where they'd sell the big, like the foam pack cassette collections?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had one of those that it was like the greatest hits of the 50s and early 60s.
Yeah.
And that was whenever we were in the car, that's what we were listening to in the house. My mother was a big fan of Genesis and Phil Collins. My dad was a massive Boston fan.
Mm-hmm.
So like that first Boston album, I think it's just self-titled.
Yeah, it is. I own 2 copies of that on vinyl, by the way.
Yeah, like it's still
so if you need one, I'll send one.
I still throw that on every once in a while.
It's a great album, dude.
It really is.
You don't skip a track. It's great top to bottom. And it's fact that they were able a demo too.
Right. The fact that they were able to ride that album for like 10 years to get out of that fucking contract it's a story.
One of the best selling albums of all time.
Yeah. But so that was what it was like at home. And then I didn't have any older siblings. So whenever I would go to my friend's house in the neighborhood, their older siblings, like that was kind of where I started to absorb the more modern music of the day. And like I'll even bring it up now. My honorable mention is Slippery When Wet, because I had old John Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Huge fan actually, because it's right over here.
Yeah. Fucking Jersey boy.
Yeah. I got that during the pandemic. $20. Bonjovi.com. They were slinging autographs and you had like 30 minutes to make a decision. I was like, $20 autograph. Okay, I'm in.
But my one of my best friends as a kid, his older sisters, naturally, like they had the big fucking 6 foot tall poster on the back of their wall or the back of their door, you know, like, and
they had like the big jacket on with the fringe and the yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, constantly playing Bon Jovi. Going into, and I'll just state it now, just for the sake of brevity. My number 5 is the Black Album.
Okay.
And it's because that was one of my other friends, her older brothers were all meatheads, so they loved metal, and so they were constantly playing that when it was new. Now, mind you, that was like a little bit later, but still, like that was my introduction into metal.
Yeah.
As sad as that is, but it was
sad but true.
I was I was a kid. I didn't have
nothing wrong with the Black Album, dude. I mean, it gets shit for being, radio friendly, but
it's more produced. Yeah. That's it. That was Rick Rubin, right?
I believe it was Bob Rock. Who also did.
Rick Rubin did a later one, I think, with Metallica.
Maybe. I don't remember.
But either way, they got an actual like professional producer, not some
because Bob Rock was just coming off of Dr. Feelgood, Motley Crue.
Gotcha. And but anyway, like, so that was it though. But I didn't know anything about heavy music at the time. Like I didn't have, like, my parents weren't fucking they graduated in 78, so they weren't teenagers during the 80s,
right?
So they missed the entire, like, the metal bandwagon or whatever. And like Black Sabbath and shit like that in the 70s was, that was for the stoner kids.
Yeah.
And my dad was a jock.
That was for the blacklight poster basement and separating stems and seeds.
Yep. So it was you know, like it was, and it kind of moved on from there. After my father passed, I had an uncle who was a big metalhead. He's the one who introduced me to Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and things like that. And like when he used to drive me to hockey practice, and like my aunt didn't like that kind of music. She was a Bon Jovi girl. So she didn't
Shout
like,
out.
yeah. She didn't like that, the heavier stuff. So whenever that was his chance to listen to it, and then also to introduce it to me. And he was a nerd in the 80s. So he fell right into it.
Right.
So then that kicked it all open. And then once I got into middle school and stuff like that, I started making friends who had cooler parents that let them do stuff that mine would never, and seeing local bands at the local venues, and started getting into the underground, into hardcore punk, dove deeper into metal. And then, like the new metal shit when it was new, when it was just NEW metal, not NU. And then as that started to kind of get more popular, I did a massive fucking back turn and went like, for 2 years of my high school, I listened to nothing but 80s metal. Like it was to the point where like that was where everybody was bumping up to the senior prom with their stretched Lincolns and Hummers and shit like that, bumping whatever the hell hip hop they were listening to. Like I cranked the volume in my Saturn to I Want to Rock just to drown out them, and everybody's just like, what are you doing?
What do you want to
like
do with your life?
I'm making a scene is what I'm doing. It's
I
high
wanna
school.
rock.
That's what I do. But yeah, man, like it's been all my music now ever since I graduated, it's been even worse. Like you can only listen to all of that stuff so much before you just don't want to listen to anything, and you just need to find something new. And I did.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of your honorable mention, like I said. Honestly, I mean, me personally, my favorite song of all time is "You Give Love a Bad Name." I just think it's the perfect pop song. So I'm a fan of that. Not my favorite Bon Jovi album. My favorite Bon Jovi album is actually New Jersey, but I can't put that on my list. I'm making it a point. I can't put anything that I wasn't in school for, so I can't use that even as an honorable mention. But I'll tell my backstory, but I'll give my honorable mention now and tell a story about it because it kind of like mirrors what you were saying. I had an older sister, so I always wanted an older brother, kind of like to help me find my way. And so my honorable mention is Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, because they came out the same day. It's basically a 2-record album when you really think about it. But my mom and dad had this couple of, they were a couple, and they were all friends, and they had an older son, and he was really big into Guns N' Roses because they were huge, late 80s, or especially early 90s. They were big, and they were opening for Metallica. And that's the first time I started saying like, fuck, and I was super young and it shouldn't have been, but that's where and I heard it in the house, obviously, from my parents, but it really, when I saw somebody like closer to my age doing it, I was like, oh, this is okay to say. Like, it's not just my parents saying these words that I'm not supposed to say. And that's kind of like when, like, and then shortly thereafter, my parents divorced, and then it became more of like, you basically can do whatever you want because, parents aren't home. Different time, not acceptable now. Back in the early 90s, it was totally acceptable for kids to be home by themselves all the time. We've talked about this before. But like going back, like me in the car or at home, it was like you said, Boston. My mom was a huge Boston fan. Bob Seger. Obviously, my dad was a huge Kiss fan. I had a Kiss poster on my wall when I was a kid. Even before I really got into Kiss, I had a Kiss poster. My dad was big into Elvis, and that stemmed into Stray Cats. Was one of his favorite bands. He has a Stray Cats tattoo on his arm, which I always thought was cool. And I love Stray Cats now. Like back then, I was like, it's kind of goofy, whatever. Stray Cat strut, getting my dinner from a fucking garbage can, whatever. Anyways, but so now I've talked to Amanda. It's like, I kind of want a Stray Cats tattoo now. Like in honor of my dad, I mean, he's still here, but it's like I grew up and I always saw that image on his arm, and I just thought it was the coolest thing, But I mean, we had a lot of country influence from my mom, George Jones, George Strait, the Georges. And then like, you know, later on Reba McEntire and Garth Brooks became huge, and I
Hmm.
was a huge Garth Brooks fan as a kid. Still am, love him. It's a little weird in social situations now because it's a 50-50 split. He's weird, I get it. Doesn't take away from the music though. Music still rocks.
Yeah.
And he was cool to me because like on like his TV specials and stuff, he would say that, you know, he was a big Kiss fan, he loved Queen and, you know, these bands that I grew up listening to. And then he was like that new generation, but it was country, but he was like his performances were more like a rock concert. So I always thought he was cool. And then like I remember like my mom having like parties and stuff and having friends over from work, and that was like really my where I kind of got everything. Like I remember listening to fucking like Tom Petty for the first time, really like when it sank in. I mean, he was on the radio even then,
Hmm.
but like really like listening to it and like sitting down with the adults and them not caring that I was in the room and like telling me about there was a couple of people that would just like explain music to me and like what this song is about. Like you have to listen to the words, don't just listen to the sounds that you're hearing. And then that's kind of like when I saw like my own progression come out. Like
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean I like these songs. Heart was another big one. You know, they had that kind of like lull in between
Hmm.
the late 70s, early 80s, and then they really hit big again when videos hit.
Hmm.
Um, and then even into the 90s, they were still pretty popular. Trying to think what else. Man, a lot of Whitesnake. A lot of fucking Whitesnake, especially after my parents' divorce. They both had fucking. I mean, I heard here I go again. I heard it every every day before school. Like my kindergarten and first grade year, I remember like one of my parents driving me to school and be like, "This is about your mom," or "This is about your dad." Like, you know, thanks a lot, thanks for nothing. And that and is this love? They're the same record, and I'm just like, oh my god, like. And now I love the songs, but then I fucking hated them. And
Sure.
I liked Whitesnake, but it was like I'm over this shit. Like
Yeah.
you two need to fucking get help at this point.
And a new goddamn record.
Yeah, please, for Christ's sake. But no, yeah, like I said, I love Whitesnake. But my number five, because we kind of did the backstory, we got an honorable mention, and then you did your five. My number five is the first CD I ever bought or album that I ever bought that wasn't Kiss or Garth Brooks with my own money. And
Hmm.
that was Foo Fighters, Nothing Left to Lose, 1999. So
Okay.
this band was huge for me. Learn to Fly was huge on the radio and
Hmm.
on VH1 at the time when VH1 played more videos than MTV because MTV was starting to switch to that more reality show
Hmm.
shit. Yeah, man. I mean, and I still love this band today. Big fan.
I love them now.
Yeah,
I hated them back then.
I get it.
It was, but it was mostly just because the once I got to Poughkeepsie, there was it was right around, it was like middle school era. They we got a new radio station. Before that, it was a classic rock station that never played anything that came out after the 80s at the time, and the pop station. It was a WPDH and K104. And those two, it was the K104 was top 40. So it was, I hated every second of that. And that was my bus experience.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have portable music until way later, but the bus experience was always K104 every fucking day.
Well,
And
see, at
then
least you were lucky your bus had radio
yeah, yeah,
because our driver wouldn't play it, even
right.
though he had it. He was just a dick.
I had some pretty cool bus drivers in
Yeah.
my schooling career, but the Foo Fighters is something like it was, I don't know what it wasn't anything that did anything for me
I
in like
don't
when they
feel
were
like
brand
they
new.
got really popular until like '05 when I graduated. Then they
Yeah.
kind of blew up.
That
But they were, I
it,
mean, they'd been around since '95. So I was like, you know, I didn't get it. Like, because
right.
I kind of always knew they were there and I liked their videos. I thought they were funny.
Yeah. They
So
definitely had a sense of humor, and I
yeah.
appreciated that, but the music behind it was just
Yeah.
it just drove me crazy.
Yeah.
It wasn't until All My Life hit.
Yeah. And
That was
that's,
when I
yeah,
was that
that's,
that that record for me was
I
the
think that
one
was
where I'm like,
05.
I can listen to Foo Fighters now.
Yeah. And
Um,
they had more of a like an aggressive style with
right.
that.
Well, I remember reading as well that they recorded that album in its entirety, and they're like, it's too clean, and then they
Yeah.
like re-recorded it in one take, so it just got real sloppy. And like Dave Grohl, especially now, like it wasn't, you know, way later that I learned that, you know, he had ingratiated himself to Lemmy, and like so he's a massive rock and roll fan, and like you listen to him talk about more and more and more, and like he listened to everything, like he was the, you know, and I got nothing but respect for the guy.
He's
And
America's sweetheart at this point, honestly.
yeah,
Him and
I
Paul
like
Rudd.
him. Yeah.
All right, what's
So
your number 4?
number 4 was is an album I got in a lot of trouble for early on. It was back during the BMG days. And my parents just started ordering CDs. Like
It
if
was
it was
big in
in
our
the
house.
like if it was in the top, like they just order it.
Yeah.
And they had their CD collection was absurd.
Yeah.
And this album I snatched from their collection because they didn't fucking deserve it. And I got in a lot of trouble for it. It's Nine Inch Nails Downward Spiral.
I was gonna say Quad City DJs.
That was
a train.
Yeah, dude. The Space Jam soundtrack got a lot of play in my circles.
Yeah, boy.
When that came out. But Downward Spiral, that was a big one. That was the first, like, because like you got the Black Album, which is heavy because it's metal, but probably the heaviest, the first truly heavy album that I ever possessed, you know, by ill-gotten gain or ill-gotten or not. And that one, it kind of that blew the doors off everything, and it opened up a whole bunch of avenues that I didn't even know I could take musically. And it's still heavy rotation for me.
Hey, Nine Inch Nails is a cool band. I was never a huge fan, but I mean, I got it. And you know, obviously their influence is huge.
Right. Because they were, I mean, honestly, they were like the first commercially viable industrial band.
Yeah. And their videos were everywhere too.
And they didn't lose that. Like you've Pretty Hate Machine, which got a lot of play later on in my life. Like it's a different sound, and it sounds very much like 80s industrial. You could 100% hear the Ministry influence on that one. And then, you know, Reznor started getting into heavy drugs and things started getting real dark. And I mean, honestly, followed the Ministry trajectory musically, getting heavier and darker and stuff like that.
I always said the same thing about Danzig too, because like the first 3 records or even kind of half the fourth one, super just straightforward, like almost hard rock / heavy metal, and then like he got super industrial, and like the band lineup changed, it got weird and super dark.
Once the electronic,
it was cool, but
once the more electronic instruments really started to kind of, you know, like not just in pop but everywhere. So like when I think it's not Lucifuge, I can't remember the name of the album, the one that like it's difficult, like I don't even think it's on Spotify right now. Like there's highly
Danzig 2, Lucifuge, How the Gods Kill, 4P, what's 5? It might just be 5. 6 is super fucking weird though.
I think 6 is the one I'm thinking of.
I don't remember.
But either way,
I feel like that one was always hard to get.
When because that came out around the same time as
oh yeah, it's
Downward Spiral and stuff like that.
666 Satan's Child.
Yeah. And pretty much everybody that didn't have like a thrash beginning, started to experiment. Like even Wasp did one.
Yeah.
They like right in that time, in that like it was like 95 to 97.
People got weird.
They started to get real experimental with electronic instruments. And
Kiss had almost like a grungy alternative album that nobody really knows
and
about.
that was the 90s, man. That was the color of the 90s subculture, was like in it, you know, I blame it on Nirvana. like when everything got dirgy, like like it
Nirvana,
was fucking
Soundgarden, Pearl Jam,
heroin chic. Yeah, like once the grunge kind of kicked metal to the side, and then in response to grunge's popularity, metal bands started to make grungy albums.
and it's not that I don't even appreciate their music or what they did. It was the fact that they came along and killed the fucking party.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
That was
everybody was
always
having a good time and in a good mood, and then here comes fucking grunge, and like everybody's shooting up and fucking
I
bumming
grew out of
everybody out.
I grew out of grunge real quick. While
Yeah.
all like the rest of my skater friends would always, they just keep the party going, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not a party. I'm just like, how do you look at everything that happened in the '80s and the amount of fun that everybody was having musically,
Yeah.
and then this was like, I'm over this. Let's just shoot heroin and be sad.
Yeah.
And it just fucking it always drove me crazy.
Uh,
So what's your 4?
my 4 is short story. So I've said it 1,000 times, probably on every podcast I've ever been a part of or any watch along we've ever done or anything. 1995 is my favorite year of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what. So my dad was with my stepmom. They broke up before they got married. And then so one summer he was single.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with him all summer. He's living in a condo right by Action Park, actually.
Nice.
Like literally, like you could see Action Park from his condo. And anyway, so 95, huge year. I remember going like that. This was the year of Michael Keaton's out as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Val Kilmer's taken over. But for like merchandising, Warner Brothers Studio Store was huge. And then they had the coffee mugs at McDonald's, shout out. And so the Batman Forever soundtrack is my number 4 because I played the fuck out of it. And it wasn't necessarily that it was the greatest album. I mean, obviously, Seal Kiss from a Rose was fucking huge and it was everywhere. The video was pretty fucking cool. But one of the only U2 songs that I like, Hold Me, Kiss Me, Thrill Me, Kill Me. Love that song. And I love the video because it's animated, it's cartoony, comic booky. But yeah, it was fun. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't so much the music. It was like, it always had good memories tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
dude, Seal, the Kiss from a Rose is in my top 10 all time.
It's a banger, dude.
It is
fucking kills. But like those two songs were like really the only like songs that did anything. But like PJ Harvey's on it. I think Method Man on there. I think
probably. I don't know. I'd have to look at the track list. I haven't like Seal's the Kiss from a Rose is the only song from that album that I remember and I give a shit about. I also remember absolutely hating U2 pretty early on, and
I didn't like them as a band, but for whatever reason I liked that song. I don't know. PJ Harvey, Brandy was on it. Offspring.
I proffer this as an episode down the line.
Flaming Lips.
Just overrated. Like we just analyze. We spend like 2 months preparing for this episode. We figure we do our top 5 most overrated bands of all time.
Ooh.
And I guarantee you U2 is on mine.
And I'm
probably in the top 3.
I'm with you. I 100% agree, and my wife would agree with us as well. But Method Man did the Riddler song. I remember that one. Yeah, dude. I mean, it was just a fun time, and
it was.
Yeah,
it 96 was simpler. Like the 96 is the year in this house. That is the one that if something reminds us of 1996, we usually get pretty excited about.
Yeah, usually we have a rotation in our house of music when we're having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And predominantly I like to do 80s night because I like the videos, and like I said, it's just a little more fun.
Mm-hmm.
But like I don't mind when every once in a while when Amanda's like, okay, I'm over like 80s stuff right now. Can we just do, like a 90s night? And I'm like, okay. Because I was never big into like 90s pop because my older sister like beat it into the fucking ground. She was big into like Michael Jackson, the early 90s, Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer, all that shit. She was big into what was on the radio. Spice Girls, TLC, all that stuff. And like I didn't like it then, but like now I've grown to appreciate it because like fuck, at least it was original,
Right. And it was, and
It's not like today's music where it's just, oh my God, we've heard it before. Stop.
It's impossible to say anything art related is objective. Yeah, obviously.
It's all based on opinion, and everybody's got one like an asshole.
Like, to me, in my universe, my personal universe, like, as much as I hated it then, it is objectively good.
Yeah.
In my universe. Like, it's undeniable. Like revisiting TLC in the early days.
Yeah.
And like all the early 90s R&B and hip hop. Like, we didn't get much hip hop on the radio because it was a white suburb. Like, you know, that it just didn't fucking play.
Right.
But the R&B aside from late 70s and early 80s, like the end of the 80s R&B was
yeah.
But in the early 90s, boy, did it pick up.
It picked up, man. Boyz II Men.
Yeah, Boyz II Men, all those all the boy bands with a number in their name.
Mm-hmm.
You know, was it All for One?
All for One,
like, dude, like it was mint. Yep. And again, I hated it when it was on, but I love it now.
It's good, man.
It really is. It really is.
Drinking music too. It's fun.
It's great to have on.
Even though you didn't like it then, you knew all the words because you heard it all the fucking time.
Yes,
that's my thing. As I do this constantly.
So my number 3, unless you have more.
No.
Okay, my number 3. These are definitely not in chronological order. Is Skid Row. The
first record,
yeah,
have it on vinyl, still with the plastic shrink wrap over it.
That's great.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I didn't. It was always there, just like Bon Jovi. It was always there. The girls loved Sebastian Bach.
Still do at my house.
Yep.
Jesus Christ!
I mean, he's kind of a fucking maniac now, but
I love him. He's great.
But that album,
killer.
I didn't get it till later, and it was again, I told you I started listening to 80s stuff real hardcore in starting my junior and senior year, but man, did I play the shit out of that record. And I still do. I love it. Sweet Little Sister is one of my favorite.
I was going to say Sweet Little Sister, underrated song.
It is.
The hits are great, but man, that's a bumping fucking track. Love it.
It's just it's as close to thrash as Skid Row ever got. Like, I know they tried in
later on.
What was it?
Subhuman Race 95.
The next one was, and then it was
the next one was Slave to the Grind.
Slave to the Grind. That's it. That's the song I was thinking of. Like that one, you know, is a little heavier. He kind of got a little darker.
It was almost like alternative kind of.
But yeah, oh dude, that first record, and that was another one. It's up there with it's akin to Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, like, which is a band that I fucking hated, absolutely detested. But the Black Parade, like, again, is one of those, to me, is in my universe an objectively like perfect record.
Yeah.
And followed, and they made another album, then broke up.
Yeah.
And Gerard Way was even saying,
I guess they're back together now.
I don't think any of them were making any money afterwards, so they were just probably like, we should just go play Black Parade over and over again. And maybe, who knows, maybe they had some inspiration, but like it just, how do you follow that kind of a masterpiece? And like how badly do you set yourself up for failure when your first record is perfect end to end? Because what is that? It was like nine tracks, something like that.
I think so. Yeah,
it was a pretty short album. And it's just from beginning to end. The ballads are perfect. The fucking in-betweens are perfect. You know, yeah, Sweet Little Sister and Youth Gone Wild, party anthems. Like, yeah. Dude,
every time I hear Youth Gone Wild, I always have to text my brother because we would not sing the entire song until they said, "Your Park Avenue leads to Skid Row."
And I know he's from Canada, but they started in Jersey too, didn't they?
Yeah, because the guitar player, Dave Snake Sabo, was the original guitar player in Bon Jovi.
Okay. Yeah. Like, it's just,
he is the guitar solo you hear on Runaway.
Oh, okay.
And then Richie does the rest of the first record. But
Yeah.
yeah, Runaway was already a hit, so they had
Yeah.
to add the original recording. Um, anything else for Skid Row?
No, that's it for me.
Big fan.
Yeah.
Where are we at? 3?
Yes.
Speaking of New Jersey and Bon Jovi, coming in at number 3. Uh, this one's gonna be a 50-50 split. It's a little on the poppier side, 2000s Crush. But you know, Bon Jovi had been kind of on the outskis for 5 years after These Days, which I love that record, but a lot of people hate it. It was a little more like angsty, I guess you could say. But when It's My Life, the video came out, and you see the foot tapping, and then it hits, and then I'm like, oh fuck yeah, Jovi's back, baby.
Yeah.
as like Jersey as you can get when you're pumped about Bon Jovi being back and having short hair.
It's My Life got a lot of play in my car.
It got a lot of play, and it, you know, I'm over it, but I'm never gonna skip it.
No,
because it still pumps me up. But like, Thank You for Loving Me is on this album as well. That was mine and Amanda's first dance.
Okay.
And I loved all the just the album tracks. You know, there's a song called Captain Crash and the Beauty Queen from Mars. Love that song. There was a video for the second song. It's Say It Isn't So. And when you get Arnold Schwarzenegger to be in a music video, even if it's just a quick cameo, pretty fucking cool, you know. And he's on the motorcycle and everything. He's like Terminator. They're like on a movie backlot. But yeah, this whole record, it was big. That summer when the video came out, and then I think the album came out like October or something. I got it for Christmas. And then this album is actually how I became friends with my friend Cameron, who my best friend. He's my kid's godfather. So big deal. Big deal. It'll always hold a special place. As much as I don't play it as much as I used to, but yeah, it's still a good one.
All right. My number 2, as I was telling you, as I was setting this list up before we started recording, I cheated a little bit. But they do kind of go hand in hand, and it's Korn, Life is Peachy, and Follow the Leader.
Oh, now you're picking 2? Come on, man.
That's why I said I cheated.
I'm kidding. That's cool.
They kind of like they flowed into each other because we're talking.
I'll do it for my number 2 then, because I thought about it and I didn't.
Life is Peachy got me through the end of middle school, and then Follow the Leader came out my freshman year.
Okay. They bleed together.
And so like it you know, it was essentially just, it was almost like a double album for me, the way that I listened to them. Life is Peachy, obviously a far heavier album than Follow the Leader. But it was like the end of it was essentially the end of their underground phase. Like they were big in the more local scenes, and the hardcore kids and stuff like that could still listen to it. The ones that weren't,
okay, I had to look it up. I had to look up the cover because I couldn't remember which one. I remember Follow the Leader was like the Cliff.
Yep.
And then I couldn't remember Life is Peachy. Sorry, go ahead.
So Life is Peachy, there are some coming of age experiences that I had listening to that album, if you feel me. Not to get too R-rated. Yeah. And then, again, followed immediately by Follow the Leader. Like, so like there was a lot of locked bedroom doors.
Yeah.
With my lady friend when
hey,
when that was
like
when
like I've been saying, good albums. Memories.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't hurt, you know.
And like Follow the Leader, like I remember when it came out, you listen to it just because it's one of your favorite bands, but the sound was so different. And I remember like I was like so anti-rap. Like, because too. I mean, that's, you get in high school's all about, I mean, living as a human being is all about like essentially tribal relations.
Yeah.
You pick a tribe and then that's your tribe and you don't go outside of that tribe. So as a metal kid. So like after I had made the switch from whatever the hell I was listening to on the school bus, and I started making friends with the skater kids, and I started getting heavier into metal and stuff like that. Rap was, you just didn't touch it.
Yeah.
that was an entirely separate social group. And they didn't cross all that much. And there's the multiple rap tracks on Follow the Leader, and I'm just like, but I mean, and then you look back on it now, like, and I still do it. Like, I remember I went on a iTunes album buying binge, and I picked up Follow the Leader when I was on one of the iTunes, like it was like $5 or some shit like that. So it's not like I went out of my way to spend a full $10 to $20 to buy the record again. But like that Ice Cube track is amazing. And so is the one, I can't remember. I think it's Trey from, I don't know if it's Tribe Called Quest.
Probably.
I don't know, but they later on, it's a super, like, just a chill track.
Yeah.
And then even at the end of the Life is Peachy, they do the one with Chino from Deftones, and he raps on it. Like, so it's like, I mean, it was already there. The groundwork was already there, and they're from Southern California. Like, it's the scenes bleed together, and
they bleed more together than the groups in high school.
But yeah, man. And then also I may have mentioned it last week, but like it was at the height of the whole, like the new Satanic Panic, Marilyn Manson. Like, I listened to a ton of him, but I couldn't put him on this. Like, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of good memories with Manson, but I did, it was mostly just single tracks, and I didn't really get into that until later.
Yeah.
But it was the Columbine happened my freshman year of high school, and like I remember being real pissed off because they were playing Korn, like the MTV News, they were playing Korn Dead Bodies Everywhere while they were showing the kids, like, bleeding and falling out of the windows of Columbine High School.
Yeah.
And like, and I'm just like, oh, here we fucking go again.
Yep.
Just like, do you really need to attach that to this scene? And then it was just this big, massive thing. And like, I did mention that I got called down to the police station in the middle of the night.
Indeed.
So like, it was this whole thing, and then you just dig in deeper. You like that's it. It's just like, this is my shit. You don't fuck with it. Like, these guys have gotten me through more, and they don't make me want to go shoot up a school. So,
right.
How about you news anchors go fuck yourselves?
Ease up a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, those two were big in a very transitional period. Fucking, that was like essentially the end of puberty for me.
Yep.
And it was, those were huge.
Yeah, we had like the Korn kids, Limp Bizkit kids. Then we had, the rap kids. It was mostly Eminem at that time. Dr. Dre, 2001 came out. That was honestly the only rap album I ever bought was Dr. Dre 2001. That's how big that record was.
Yeah.
And then I never bought another one. I thought Dr. Dre and Snoop were cool, but like,
right,
the Eminem track was like, yeah. I couldn't stand Eminem. Still can't to this day. I don't even see the love that he gets. But I mean, that's cool. If anybody likes that, that's awesome. Good for you. Just not my style. I was never a big rap fan until like even older rap until now. Like, I like Beastie Boys and Run DMC and stuff as a kid, still do. But like, other than that, I really didn't get into it. But now it's like, oh, cool. Like, the 90s stuff is pretty good, but like, once it got towards more closer to 2000, like Eminem hit, and like I said, I was like, no thanks, not for me, too whiny. And this is coming from a Bon Jovi fan,
right?
Speaking of whiny,
who's your number two?
My number two, I'm gonna double it up because you did, and they kind of go together, and they were back to back. So these were the first two CDs I ever owned. I still have them. I made sure that I would never like re-buy these albums because I wanted the originals that I was given, and it was from someone in my mom's circle, that I used to sit at the kitchen table with when they would be partying and stuff, and I'd be getting all this influence. But this is a band that I grew up with. So it's Kiss Alive 3 from 1993. And I love that record because, while Kiss Alive 1 and 2 are both great, 3 to me had that newer live, big sound. It was a little more heavy, you know, because you had the songs from Revenge, like Unholy and stuff like that. And it was just that different. It was Kiss without makeup. They were wearing leather and stuff. They looked like something new, but they weren't. They just knew how to follow trends like they did in the 80s with the hair bands. And then 94, they were part of their own tribute record, Kiss My Ass. And this one was what really bled it together. This is when I became like a massive Kiss fan because not only was Kiss part of it, but Garth Brooks was on it too. So I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Garth Brooks is singing while Kiss is playing the music. This is awesome. Lenny Kravitz was on it with Stevie Wonder playing harmonica on a song. That's fucking cool. Gin Blossoms were on it. Huge Gin Blossoms fan, still am today. Love that band. Great live, still good live. Anthrax was on it. That was cool. Mighty Mighty Bosstones did the Drug City. That's fucking cool. Weird. Never thought that would ever something like that would ever happen, but it works. Like, yeah, I think they made a video for it too. You can find it on YouTube. It's pretty cool. Yeah, but like something like that, like a day where you get a new form of media, sticks out. Because I was all cassettes and vinyl prior, even 8-tracks. We had one of those big stereos with the glass door.
Oh yeah,
and it had the vinyl on top with the plastic lid, and then it had cassette and 8-track.
Yeah,
it was fucking awesome.
Oh, dude,
and it was loud.
I remember the amount of sound that thing pumped out. Yeah, and
which is like my setup now. Why I like it so much is because it reminds me of you know, being a kid and sitting in front of it, and my fucking
nostalgia's a hell of
dinosaurs underwear.
Yeah,
I just my hair fucking getting blown back. Shout out to Uncle Dan. Yeah, that's my number 2 though, and it's Kiss, so of course it has to make the list.
Yeah. So my number 1. This is the most definitive record of my schooling years, and it was another one where they changed their sound, and I wasn't big on it. And I remember a lot of it too was Trent Reznor cut his hair for it, and he cleaned up his act, and but he changed Nine Inch Nails sound so much, and it was after years of listening to Downward Spiral, Broken, and shit like that. Like I was just like, this isn't heavy anymore. What is going on? And that was a big deal to me. This came out my freshman year. Or no, I'm sorry, it started promoting it my freshman year, and then actually I think it did. I still think it came out then. It was The Fragile. Is a double album, and they toured the shit out of this. And I saw them in, I think it was 2000. But it was like oh fuck, I don't remember time shit like that. It was at Madison Square Garden. We were in the nosebleeds. Fucking A Perfect Circle opened for them with Maynard, who at the time was my Jesus. Like the Tool,
Old Place.
Yeah, it was Tool was massive for me, especially like the Anima, however you pronounce it.
However you want to say
it. Yeah. That one was, I at the time, because we're talking one like fully like goth punked up. So I was just nothing but broody, whiny asshole. And I was just constantly playing that one. So to have A Perfect Circle open up with my favorite musician of all time at the time, that was big. And then Nine Inch Nails set is what put me over with The Fragile. It was an experience. Like I remember for the longest time, like I didn't even like. You ever see a show that had such an impact on you that you couldn't even fucking remember it?
I've had it like, where it's skewed. Like I thought things happened that didn't happen.
Like it was all I could remember was the elation. Like I remember just being amazed and elated the entire time. And it wasn't until like the beginning of it, I remember they were, played a whole lot of old shit, just as hard as ever. You could see Trent Reznor picked up this tendency from his days in Ministry where he just beat the shit out of his bandmates on stage. Like pouring motherfucker was like literally pouring water on his keyboardist while he was playing, like on his instruments and everything. Like just
hey,
like
let's get you electrocuted real quick.
right. It's just abusive. It was just a hard show. And then as things started to wind down, they had this crazy LED setup with all these. It had these different shaped LED screens that would move around over them, and they had this one that was really long and narrow, and then it fucking moved 90 degrees, and then it just started to show like a drop, like liquid, like drop of water, like into a pool or whatever, and then they played The Great Below, which is still my favorite song on that record. And it's very like aquatic feeling. Sounds like you're like underwater, if at the very least submersed in some kind of like in a submarine type thing where like everything's close and cold, and it's largely a solo track. It's mostly just like the singing and then a little like ambient music behind it, but it blew me the fuck away. And for the encore, they start ramping up for Starfucker, which is about Marilyn Manson, because he was on a bunch of tracks, either playing music or singing backup or whatever in the early days of Manson.
Yeah.
And then
I actually remember this song.
Yeah. And once Manson got big, he kind of I don't know if Reznor just took it as a slight that he got famous, or if Manson actually turned his back on him. The story behind it's still kind of, whatever, muddled. They don't really talk about it, and it's like one of those things where you want to know the information, but you also have to respect the guys for not airing their dirty laundry in public.
Right.
But there was a renowned split between the two of them. And out walks this fucking tall, skinny dude with freaking blood red hair in a head or in a like neck to toe fucking cat suit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no. And we had binoculars because we were in the nosebleeds. Sure as shit, out walks Marilyn Manson on a 9 Inch Nails stage, and they sing Starfuckers together, followed immediately by Beautiful People. Like it was like all the pretty much the defining three people of my angstiest period of my life. Maybe not sharing the stage at the same time, but they were all in the building
one night.
Yeah, it was massive for me. And then and then ever since then, because that one broke it open. It was a free ticket that my girlfriend's father's friend gave us. So it was absurd. I couldn't believe it. And it was a hell of a night. And it's still the best concert I've ever seen.
And it was at the Garden too, so that amps it up big time. Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Cool. All right, because I have got to skedaddle after my number one, so we got to wrap her up.
Okay.
All right, so number one, this is the only album I've ever owned on cassette, CD, vinyl, and digitally. Like I was never big into like buying music when iTunes first came out, because there was always other means, and I still had a pretty aggressive physical media, and I still do.
Mm-hmm.
But I got it on vinyl last year, obviously for a re-release because it's an older album. But like I said, I wore this motherfucker out, and everybody in my house owned this on some form, and it's Hootie and the Blowfish, Cracked Rear View. This to me is one of those perfect albums. One of the biggest albums of all time. And top to bottom, I don't skip a track ever. I know all the words to every song. Time is my favorite Hootie and the Blowfish song ever. I think it's fucking awesome. And it's a great end of the night party song. You could do almost a trifecta of that, Piano Man and Closing Time for those who remember that song. But yeah, dude, I love this record. I thought they had the coolest sound. They were like weird, like it was like pop, country, alternative, like almost like fratty music. It was weird. It was weird. Like you couldn't even put them into a genre, and even now you can't. And Darius Rucker doing his country thing now, and I think he's phenomenal at that as well. But yeah, that band was so huge to me. Still is. Always gonna be one of my favorite records of all time.
Right on. Yeah, I was never a big Hootie fan. It was mostly just due to the amount that it got played.
It got played a lot.
That was one of my sister's first CDs.
Yeah.
So I got it on all fronts, even when the radio wasn't on.
She was listening to it.
And she was diligent in only playing the hits.
Yeah.
I think it's a horrible song anyway, but Marcy Playground's Sex and Candy.
Oh boy. I think it's a fun listen now, but then I can't.
Dude, she put it on repeat. Because she didn't have a changer, so she just put the CD in and she just played the songs that she wanted to hear on repeat.
Yeah,
but like she did the same thing with "I Only Want to Be with You." And
my sister did that with Macy Gray. I Try.
Yeah, I love Darius Rucker's voice.
Yeah,
I love that he's doing a country thing now.
He's awesome, man.
Great. Like it's not my brand of country, as you well know.
No,
but like I love that he's doing it, and it's. And I don't hate hearing his voice ever, really. But
he's a cool dude too.
Yeah, he's got a big fan base in South Carolina that I know because I've mentioned before that largely my family's a bunch of squares.
Yeah.
So that was that was also another nail in their coffin was when my aunt would come up and visit and she would talk about Hootie doing charity shows in South Carolina. And she's like, "Oh, we love Hootie," and I'm like, "Oh, that's a big red flag for me. Like I can't, like I couldn't possibly. Like it's like, how could I listen? I can't listen to this if you're listening to this.
Yeah,
just
does this mean we can't be friends.
Like no. It's like we're talking years ago. Now every once in a while I'll throw on the hits myself, just because. Again, I like the sound of Darius Rucker's voice,
and it takes you back. This is all about
it brings me back. I remember like my one uncle who is actually not a square. He's a pretty cool dude. He's the Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
So like he loved Hootie because he fit being a dejected Dolphins fan into a song that made whatever. Probably that song alone probably made triple platinum just as a single.
Yeah.
So it was, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But that was also at the time when I was looking for the heaviest, darkest shit that would make my mother angry.
It was a different time for you. Yeah, let us know what your top 5 from your school years are. Even if you're, if you're younger and you more 2000s, 2010s, that's cool too. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Where can they go to get the merch?
Mudamerch.com, MUDAMERCH.com. Represent your boys.
And we'll be back with part 3 shortly after this. Same bat time, same bat channel. All right, we're back with each of our top 5 movie picks. School related, back to school. I'm going to just say this now. One of my picks is school is involved. I wouldn't call it a school movie, but school was heavily involved, and the premise is leaving the school. So just to say, I considered a school movie.
It doesn't have to be the beginning of school.
And I watched it a lot in like August. So it was a preamble to going back to school. So I just wanted to say, in case there's people like, why didn't you pick this one? Well, this is my list. It's not your list. And you can tell us your list in the comments.
Yeah. Make your own list.
Or
Do your own
email the
thing.
show, your popyourculture@gmail.com. Where can they get merch before we get into this?
Mudamerch.com. MUDAMERCH.com.
Yeah. We got to work on do we have a design for this month?
No, not currently.
Well, we got a few days, so
We do. I've been a busy
time of
boy.
recording this. Yeah.
I've been a busy boy this summer.
Yeah.
But
We've both
yeah,
been
I'll try.
busy.
Yeah. And that's why we're doing these horrible broad categories where we have to think way harder than we usually would.
Right.
And they
You
were
would think
supposed to be easier.
that was the premise was, hey, summer months, let's do 3 super easy picks.
Let's just do these things that are mostly feelings.
Yeah, and we can go ahead and say it now because we've already got it picked. Next month we're doing Alien versus Predator, so that's a lot of content.
Nice laser focus.
A lot of content, but at least it's back to that, core, massive fan bases for both franchises, and they kind of go together. So
yeah,
it's gonna be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, back to school. Let's wrap up. I guess we can say this is the wrap of the summer, honestly.
Really,
so we're going back to school. My kids just went back this past week. Time of recording is August 28th. My kids started last week, so we're starting second week tomorrow. And by the time this will be out, they will be done with their second week, pretty much. Yeah, so
they did CU move in, so I've had to go an entirely different way to work for the last week and a half to avoid the chaos of new college kids. So yeah, it's that time of year, man. Summer's over.
Yep.
We're what? Yes, 3 days away from August being done, and then it's September, and September may as well be fall already. So
yeah, in my opinion, yeah. We've already got plans for Labor Day to go out on the boat. And then after that, that's it.
Yeah, that's
Labor Day is the official end.
This when they close the pool here at the apartments.
Yep, it's usually Memorial Day to Labor Day. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah. So what's your number 5?
My number 5, aptly titled, "Back to School." Rodney Dangerfield, one of my all-time favorite people.
Yeah.
I remember just even being a kid, dude. I always thought he was hilarious. This movie is hilarious. It's got one of my favorite songs, Dead Man's Party from Oingo Boingo. And also, not only is it for school, but we're coming up on Halloween too. So that's a great Halloween song. But the Triple Lindy scene, when he's up on the diving board and he's, testing, and
yeah.
Great movie. Love it. We're trying to keep this quick because the music segment was so long.
Yeah. Dangerfield is a human cartoon character, but man, his delivery, he could just deliver, some fucking rando historical speech, and it'd be hilarious.
Yeah. And my oldest, that's probably his favorite comedian. He thinks he's hilarious. We'll watch YouTube clips all the time, and he just is doubled over laughing because it's so simplistic.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's always the running joke. He can't get any respect, his wife, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And if you see me constantly reaching over, it's because allergies are taking over my house. And
it's that time of year too. Sadly.
Yeah. Hang on. I'm going to pause for just a second so I can blow my nose.
All right. My number 5 is Animal House.
Great movie.
It's just a fucking classic, man. Everybody in it. Ivan Reitman. Fun fact: I've found myself relating even more to Bluto. We have a problem with neighbors playing acoustic guitars.
Oh yeah,
and I'm just I have never related to Bluto's character more. I'm I literally I'm about ready to kick in that motherfucker's door and shove that guitar up his ass, and then just go,
toga. You have to go in there wearing a toga, though.
I mean, sure. If I'm gonna go, we're breaking and entering already,
Go
so I may as well just go
100%
into
full
Togo.
blown Bluto.
Yeah. Like, and there's nothing else I could say about that. Four.
Yeah, dude. Animal House is great though. I love it. One of my favorites. Not on my list though. Thought about it, but didn't. All right, so my number 4 is the one I mentioned in the intro. This movie was huge for me. I saw it in the theater, rented it over and over and over and over on VHS, then finally bought it on VHS, then bought it on DVD, then bought it on Blu-ray, own it on digital now. Centered around probably one of my favorite things ever, and it's Detroit Rock City.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
that makes sense now why I put
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Obviously, 4 kids in a band, worshiping Kiss as I did, especially in high school. And my dad skipped school to see Kiss, so it has that effect as well. Yeah, and it's based around my favorite band, and how many people's favorite bands have movies based around them. So have to put it in.
Yeah.
And the scene where the mom burns the concert tickets, I to this day cannot watch it. I have to turn away.
I am still now that I've seen the movie multiple times, I am not as surprised, obviously, anymore. But like, I'm still overall, I'm like, I can't believe how good this movie is.
It's great. It's
Like,
so underrated.
Like it, like for a movie that is essentially an infomercial for Kiss. Yeah, I'm just like, okay, well, all right. They somehow managed to wrap this pretty fucking fun story around this Kiss infomercial. I'm here for it.
You get Shannon Tweed in the movie. She's in a love making car scene with one of the high school boys, which is probably can't do that today, but it was supposed to be based in the 70s, so it's a little more, accepted then. Ron Jeremy's in it for a brief second.
And now he's in jail.
And now he's in jail for probably good reason.
Yeah, totally for good reason.
But yeah, I mean, the cast is great. Love it. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this movie probably more times than I would say anybody.
Yeah, I mean, everything about it, like Edward Furlong before he started melting.
Yeah.
I can't remember a guy's name. I think it's Sam or whatever. The main kid,
Sam Huntington.
Yeah, Sam Huntington. Yeah. He's cool as shit.
The drummer,
he's good stuff later. And then Lin Shaye.
She's fantastic in everything, but she's awesome.
Lin Shaye is one of my favorite people that acts. Like whenever she shows up, I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, and if you don't know Lin Shaye, she was the teacher in Nightmare on Elm Street. She was the very tan lady in Something About Mary. She was the landlord on Kingpin.
Yeah, the very gross landlady in fucking Kingpin. Yeah.
She's in everything, dude. She's hilarious.
She's a fantastic character actor. And and then also most recently she's been killing it in the Insidious movies.
Oh, she's in those? Okay. I don't watch a lot of the new horror. I'm not really
Insidious is definitely one of the ones. And she's like I said, she's killing it. So like she plays a medium in that
cool.
those movies. So
awesome.
Big in a horror scene.
Yeah.
That was great. I'm gonna pull a last minute audible because I can't believe wasn't on my list to begin with, and the one that was in its place doesn't deserve to be here. And in a similar fashion to you, and your movie told me or essentially inspired this decision. But Dazed and Confused.
Yeah. It was a last minute boot for back to school, just mainly for Rodney, but also the soundtrack.
Dazed and Confused is I watched that movie at least a dozen times a year.
Have we talked? I feel like we've talked about Dazed and Confused before on here.
I mean, we may have mentioned it.
Maybe mentioned it.
It's never been on a list of
one of the greatest soundtracks ever.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic fucking movie. Hilarious. I just watched it probably not even two, probably about a month and a half ago. Yeah. And it still holds up. and probably one of the only movies I like Ben Affleck in. Not a big fan of Ben Affleck, but
and
he plays a
he's
great
awful.
asshole.
Like
Yeah,
he's a perfect, like, perfect
yeah,
awful person in that. It's just it's definitely it's got to be one of my favorites. Like my list, I don't think I could come up with like a comprehensive, legitimate like top 10 movies. Honestly, I would be. It's too hard for me. But like 50, yeah,
yeah,
and Dazed and Confused is definitely on that list.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and
We
like you
watched
said,
it
like
nonstop in high school.
the 70s aesthetic is big with me, as you well know. The cars, like just the idea, just imagining living in a world where you could, like, I mean, I understand that this is like this is an affluent Texas suburb, so we're not talking about like, poor people here. Um, but still the idea that you like a college kid could afford a fucking mint GTO
Yeah,
or any of those other cars that are in that movie. Like it's and then me growing up in the 90s and I'm like, cool, Saturn. Like there's just we're worlds apart. They had everything. They had everything at their fingertips.
the coolest thing
And
about that
they
movie
threw it all away.
is like like I said, I mean, we watched it early on, but really got into it in junior high and high school. And my mom would always come in and she'd be like, "You guys are watching this again?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "So," because my mom grew up in Texas. She went to, I mean, she would have been in eighth grade in '76 because she graduated in '80. So I would have, I asked her, I was like, "So was Texas really like this?" And she was like, "Oh, it was even better." Because I mean, growing up in a small town in Texas, she was like, we could get away with anything. All the cops
Yeah.
knew us. All the
Yeah.
cops knew our families. Like if we got into any trouble, they'd usually give us a free pass.
Maybe just bring you home. Like
Yeah,
like just make it so you can't do anything bad late for that night, and then just bring you home. And then if it was bad enough, tell your folks.
but I mean, like even when we were in school and stuff, like high school, I mean, I remember like a lot of my friends would go out driving around and stuff and listen to music and all that. And I was always the one like getting the party ready. I was like, I don't have time to go drive around. I wanna make sure this party is gonna be fun because that was our weekend, man. We looked forward to a good bash on the weekend. But yeah,
Mhm.
dude, that's a great pick, and I'm kind of bummed I didn't pick it, but I feel like that one will come up again at some point
Likely. I
because
was like,
there's
it's
so
one of
many
my.
different things.
It's perfect. Like and then, like we could, that'd probably if we ever do one, if we ever kind of do another movie music mix, like top 10 soundtracks or some shit like that. Like that's fucking gotta be on it.
Yeah.
Like as
All right.
far as painting the picture. What do
I
you
gotta-
got?
All right. So my number three, a movie I saw in the theaters multiple times with groups of friends. Obviously owned it, watched it nonstop throughout high school and after, and even took time to watch it last night. So my number three is Old School.
Ooh, very nice. Yeah,
Uh, the thought of being middle aged and trying to get into college and or have a house in a neighborhood where the frats and everything are, and then like Blue and shit like that, KY Jelly wrestling matches with an old man as a referee who passes away. A lot of good music in this too.
mhm.
Master of Puppets, the Great Dan Band as the wedding
Yeah.
band towards the beginning.
Oh my god.
Total Eclipse of the Heart. I think everybody our age kind of knew that version.
Yeah, 100%. I still sing it.
Some people know that version more than they know the original.
I believe that. And a lot of I know people who know that song, that version of that song, never seen this movie. Like
Seems like
it's
every time
just
I've ever been to karaoke at a bar, somebody sings that version of that song.
yeah, when I'm feeling particularly froggy, I'll do it.
Love it.
Yeah, and whenever It's just like, what is happening here? Because it's just usually a bunch of old fogies, and they're just like, why is he swimming? And then the toilet goes on. And everybody, but all my friends are just like singing along.
Does Bonnie Tyler do this in the live version?
Yeah.
I thought she was Welsh. But yeah, Luke Wilson's great in it. I've got a visitor. Vince Vaughn, kind of a fallen star these days, but I mean, I've seen a few things recently that he's been in the last few years, and he's still funny. His delivery's funny.
He's been doing a lot more serious stuff.
Yeah, but even being serious, his delivery.
Yeah, well, it's funny. His face.
Yeah,
it's his face and his tone and all those things. It's just like I've watched this guy. I've watched this guy make me laugh for 25 years, and then now he wants to do serious stuff. Like I know he did Psycho, and he's done other
that other movie with Travolta, Domestic Disturbance or whatever. Did you ever see that? It's fucking weird, but it's a good movie.
He did a couple for Dallas Saunier, who's one of my he's like, I mean, it's not one of my favorite filmmakers by any means, but he's made the closest thing to like exploitation cinema of the late 70s.
Yeah.
Where like the story just happens. Like it's the only way I could describe it. Like there's a story and it happens and the movie starts and it ends, and in between it is these like, it's just like it hits you after the fact as you're watching it, and then it's over and you're like, what the fuck just happened? And
all that little stuff that happened in the middle, you're like, oh, that's why that happened that way.
Right. It's a weird way to explain it, but it's just like you're not supposed to experience the movie like you do with more other modern movies. But anyway, Vince Vaughn is in two that he's done. One is called Dragged Across Concrete, and the other one is called Brawl in Cell Block 99. But it's just like hyper violent, like 70s.
Yeah,
like the 70s style, fucking just like hyper violent action exploitation, and it's really good. And it's weird because I thought he was gonna have kind of a like a snarky character or whatever, but he is pinned straight the whole time. And it's
check those out.
Yeah, they're fun. But I think he's just kind of ducked out.
Yeah,
like he's not like modern Hollywood, so he's just been chilling the fuck out.
Yeah, and then
hanging out with Dwight Yoakam.
Yeah, and then of course Will Ferrell is in it, and he's great as Frank the Tank.
Frank the Tank is
Frank the Tank. I'll do one. He's gonna do one. Once it hits your lips.
Yep. The once it hits your lips, that's a popular one on the golf course.
Oh man, the first cold beer after you crack it, that first sip, it usually runs through my mind.
And especially when you really need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when it's been a long week.
Yeah.
All right.
Number 3 for me is Accepted. And I feel like it's in a similar vein as far to Old School, even. Like it's like there's a lot of people who haven't seen these either one of these movies.
Yeah.
And like they are fucking hilarious. And like they're just almost forgotten by time, by like everybody but me and obviously you.
Yeah.
The as far as quotability, like it's not, again, most of these movies, we're not talking about anything that's going to like change history or something like that. You know what I mean? Like these are largely, like, I'd say Dazed and Confused is kind of close, if there's going to be anyone, because it's just this weird kind of coming of age drama over the course of about 12 hours. But the Accepted is, I mean, it's just like there's a message there, but it's fucking like, just, I don't even know, it's not even like stoner humor. Like there's some,
it's just kind of straight up like slapstick kind of, a silly movie. It's not something you're gonna turn on when you're like, I have to literally sit here and watch every frame of this picture and try to figure out what it all means. I mean, you can put that on, you can be doing other stuff, walking around your house and hear it and laugh and kind of whatever. But I've seen it multiple times, and like after, the first time, I'm like, I can do other things while this is on and know what's kind of happening,
Yeah, just like the character Glenn.
Yeah.
Like I quote him more than anybody else in that movie. And then also like whenever there's hot dogs, I'm just like, ask me about my
Ask me about
wiener.
my wiener.
Hey, ask me about my wiener. That's, like I think I feel like that was the last hurrah for really big Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he started losing weight pretty quick after that. But it's just it's a silly, fun, stupid college movie, and I love it, and I'll watch it over and over and over and over again.
With you. My number 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My number 2 is another movie that I watched every summer before school would start, and now I just kind of watch it whenever. I've tried to get my wife to watch it. She's never seen it. The 5 or 6 times that I've watched it in the last few years, she's started it and usually fallen asleep. But it's The Breakfast Club.
Here you go.
I mean, it's a perfect movie.
Yeah.
There's not a lot outside of the school that happens other than them getting dropped off and you know leaving. That's it. Everything else happens inside the school. They're in detention or Saturday school, whatever you want to call it. You got the jock, you got the princess, you got the weirdo, you got the nerdy kid, and then you've got the outcast who you find out has a shitty home life, and that's why he is the way he is, and he's a dickhead. But throughout the movie, you slowly see them all kind of building together and becoming a group.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ask the question: is this gonna happen? Are we gonna be friends after today? And then of course the dickhead principal who mess with the bull, you get the horns.
That's I watched that movie a lot.
Yeah.
And that was why everybody took sociology, the sociology elective in high school, because the teacher showed Breakfast Club. And it was like usually she would show little snippets of other movies to kind of sell his point, but Breakfast Club was the only one where we watched it in its entirety. And it's essentially a sociological character study to begin with. So fucking like he pointed it out too in the middle of class. He's essentially nailed everybody with one of the characters. And no surprise to most people.
And I mean, all the actors in the movie, part of the Brat Pack little run they had. And I mean, they were all in other movies and stuff. I feel like this is the quintessential Brat Pack movie. And there's other good ones, there's other great ones, but I mean, like Demi Moore and Rob Lowe, had they been in this movie, that would have been it.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have added those two actors, this would be it. There's no reason to even do anymore, but they were so popular that they made good money.
Yeah.
And they made studios a shit ton of money doing these movies.
Yeah, this one it's on my overall list. But it's definitely, I don't know, it's fallen off, but you're right. It is just like end to end perfect movie. You'll never hear an unkind word about John Hughes coming from my mouth.
Right.
And then you got any more about it?
No, I'm good.
All right. My number 2 is Superbad.
I was hoping you would say it because it didn't make my list.
Yeah.
But if not, I was going to be like, okay, honorable mention, Superbad.
Yeah, 2 Jonah Hills in a row. Superbad is like,
this podcast is a Jonah Hill vehicle.
Like, I mean, I don't know what really needs to be said about it. It's just like it's a fucking. I've had almost identical experiences as both of those characters, and fucking McLovin for that matter.
Yeah.
Like finding like I got myself into some pretty hairy shit when I was in high school. And all trying to get laid or get booze. And it's like it's kind of an adventure movie.
It really is.
Like if you think about it,
I feel like though, like we were kind of the last of that breed that had to go through stuff like this, like trying to acquire alcohol in high school.
Right. I mean, like cell phones were not that popular. Like I think I started like once I got my car. I had my first car very late in my senior year. And once I got the car, then my folks were like, all right. We had calling cards. And then they were just like, all right, you guys are not in the house for most of it. So here, have this like cardboard Kyocera cell phone. Like it was like we just the stupid cheap ones. And it was like they were the shitty ones where you can't you can't be proud of it.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing fancy about it. It's just literally a function. It serves a purpose. But so that being said, like we didn't have we didn't have cell phones. We were calling motherfuckers. We were literally just showing up to people's houses, or using
home phones, pay phones. Yeah.
So it was like that time. It was just more difficult. Nowadays, you can just literally just call up your older brother or friend with an older brother or something like that. Just like
shoot him a text.
Yeah.
So there's a paper trail.
Yeah. And it's still difficult.
Yeah.
Like before we started recording today, we were talking about getting ID'd and shit like that. Like a lot of places here, like if you look younger than 40, they're required to ID.
That's how it is here too. And like I was telling you as a bartender, like if I had any doubt in my mind, I was carding.
Yeah.
I don't care if I've seen you before.
Yeah.
But I would see so many people that I'm like, fuck, what if this isn't that guy,
Right. At which point, it's
I mean, unless
man.
you're a regular that comes in,
right.
every day or every few days or at least once a week, then I'm like, okay, yeah, you're good.
Right. But it's like, I'm not going to get this bar shut down.
But I'm also not going to card an 80-year-old man. Yeah. Although, I mean, Hollywood movie makeup is
it's getting
super
better.
Easy to acquire now.
They could have Benjamin Button disease. But yeah, no, it's super bad. It's cathartic is what it is, because it reminds me of
you want the alcohol or you don't want the alcohol. Either way, either way it's fine.
Yeah, it's
my favorite line from that movie. I love it. About to give you the best blow, Jay.
Like it hits on so many, and it's just how relatable.
Look, we're blood brothers. Yeah. Dude, Bill Hader as a cop with Panama blasting, so good.
Jesus Christ, the fucking Seth's rant on the soccer field.
Yeah.
After he's excited about the girls wanting him to buy the alcohol.
Oh man,
Pounding Vaj.
I love that movie so much. I kind of want to watch it.
Yeah, it really, like, it's solid. It's, like I said, cathartic and very very nostalgic and reminiscent of my time in high school. And it's and that's what this list is about to me. Really is just and also Breakfast Club's great, and the reason it didn't make my list is because it's like, while it has its funny parts, it reminds me of the darker side of high school way more than it does the good times. So this is all good times. That's what this is. Top 5 good times back to school movies.
Yeah, I had to do Saturday school like so many times that like I would just go in, like it felt like that. And I remember like you would get like your 5-minute breaks to go outside or whatever, walk around, and everybody's like trying to get as far away from the door as they could so the teacher
Mhm.
couldn't see everybody smoking ciggies.
Yeah.
Not only were we already in trouble, but we're smoking cigarettes on school property, which
Yeah.
wasn't a good thing back then. It wasn't like the 70s and even 80s when they had, designated smoking areas. But yeah, I super bad. It makes me question my whole list.
Nah, it's all right.
Well,
It's on one of
it's
them.
one of those ones like even like Breakfast Club and Detroit City and like your list, Days of Confused. It's one of those movies where I watched so much like over a short amount of time that I just got so burnt out on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been long enough now that I kind of want to watch
Yeah, man. It's usually I like when it's on streaming.
it. Yeah,
Like I won't pick it. Like I'm
it
pretty
was
sure
on. It
both.
might be on Netflix still. I think
Yeah,
it
it
was
might
over
be.
the summer at some point.
But my wife and I both have copies, like
Yeah,
from before we got together. And neither one of us will ever grab the disc.
no, I mean
But like
I know
but like
where
we
mine is actually,
right.
but
But we've watched it enough where like we've watched it enough so like we won't get the disc. We don't ever really have a Jones for it that bad, but if it's on streaming, guaranteed.
yeah,
Like
it'll
if
come
it's
on.
literally just a push of a button, it's going on because
Yeah,
it's
even if
just
it's late at night, you're
yeah,
laying around, whatever.
nice
Maybe I fall asleep watching it. I've seen it enough
nice
though
lighthearted.
yeah, don't have to pay
Like
attention. That's my kind of movie. If I don't have to pay
yeah,
attention, I'm in.
yeah.
I
And
uh,
it's yeah,
I think I've talked
that's
about
me
this
lately.
before. It is I will never understand the idea of going to somebody's house where drinking is like almost like it's a done deal. You know you're gonna drink at this person's house. I
Mhm.
don't understand how people can sit around a TV and watch a movie while they're drinking. I will never understand the concept of that. Like I don't want to sit there and watch a movie while I'm getting hammered.
Are you talking about the three of them and how they would just get drunk
No,
in their basement? Or are you
no,
talking
I'm
about
talking
actual
about in
legit?
general, like in the real world. I will never understand the concept of that. Like I could see doing other things and watching a movie, sure, but drinking alcohol and watching a movie, like it doesn't make sense to me. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I know a lot of
We
people do it. I just can't.
Yeah, we would. I would always do once I started getting into mixed drinks, especially. I just sit there and
Yeah,
fucking yeah. We'd all just make cocktails and watch whatever the fuck we were watching. But it was there's a lot of talking during the movie, so
yeah.
you know, like
It's just
it
kind of
was
on in the
almost yeah,
background. Yeah,
yeah,
that makes more sense. But like sitting down and like watching seriously, like even like on Halloween, like you throw a horror movie on or whatever, you're having cocktails. I'm going through my kids' candy, see when I
yeah.
can what I know they won't eat, and it's usually the stuff I like. But yeah, so let's get into number one because we're pushing it. My number one is I guess it's kind of like one it was really big for me in junior high and high school again. uh I had a group of friends, like we would watch this movie over and over all the time. uh like everybody was a character in the movie, you know what I mean, like, and we would quote it nonstop. And it's kind of because of things that have happened recently, it's kind of made a comeback on social media. But my number
Mhm.
one is Grease
Very nice.
because it's the word that you heard. It's got moves, it's got meaning. But yeah, I actually dropped out of drama class because the teacher wouldn't agree to do Grease as our play. And I was like, if I can't be Danny Zuko in high school,
Why am I even doing this?
why am I here? And I was Danny Zuko for Halloween one year. There's pictures of me online, and I still have my T-Birds jacket.
Nice. Yeah, it was the first musical that I ever watched, and I didn't hate.
It's the
Uh,
best. It's the best musical. It's perfect.
I have since I have since come around on a lot of other musicals, but
Sure.
that was the first one. It's also because like it has there's implications in that like in that movie that are like where you're watching it in a music class with a stuffy old teacher, and like they know what's happening, but they're still letting it happen, like letting it go on.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, wait, maybe this old bitch is cooler than we thought. You know, like you didn't talk about cream and pants and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like,
she's sitting over in the corner, like
yeah,
quoting every line. You see her mouth.
yeah, oh, yeah, singing along.
Yeah.
But yeah, that and I mean, we've talked about it a lot. But like that's probably like one of my, if not my favorite era in American history.
Yeah, man.
Like
I mean, the
close to it. Like,
greasers were what it was all about. Rockabilly, greaser,
yeah.
50s culture in general. We've talked about it.
Cuff jeans,
Yeah.
Marlon Brando motorcycle jacket,
pack of smokes rolled up in your shirt sleeve.
I don't do that anymore, but it's I used to. Fucking goddamn right, I used to.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that's great. It's a great movie. And yeah, it belongs on the list for sure with one of us. My number one is similar to your number 5, what I consider to be like the ultimate back to school comedy.
I think I know what it is.
Billy Madison.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going American Pie.
No, that was American Pie is what I took off for Dazed and Confused.
Oh, okay.
Right. But as far as, I mean, yeah, he even sings it.
Back to school.
Yeah.
Back to school. To prove to Dad that I'm not a fool.
You know, and whatever. Adam Sandler's, you know, he's a great actor and he's grown as a person and as a performer and all that shit. But man, I love me some goofy Sandler.
Yeah.
Like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore double feature is always a good day for me.
I think Billy Madison was the movie I wore out the most. I can't tell you how many copies I owned of that on VHS alone.
Yeah.
I think about this quote at least once a week, and I think it's an underrated one. But when he's talking, when his dad's telling him about how he buys him clothes and stuff, and he's like, "Actually, Dad, I stole this shirt from Frank," and he lifts up his shirt. Yeah, Frank. Every fucking time it gets me, dude.
His father's reaction,
yeah,
to it.
Who is also the dad from A Christmas Story?
Yep. Yeah, man. It's just like beautiful 90s comedy.
It's such a great cast.
Farley.
Dude.
You still had Farley.
Norm.
Fucking Norm. Like it never gets old for me.
No.
I have no problem understanding that like a modern kid would watch it and be like, what the fuck is this?
If I wasn't so snotty and pressed on time, I could literally sit here and quote the entire movie.
Yeah.
From start to finish.
I think, it was cousins of mine, older cousins. They took us to see that in the theater because it was, Christ, it came out when I was 11.
Yeah.
So like, we weren't getting into that on our own, but that was my first like adult comedy that I saw in the theater. And I got in a lot of trouble quoting it a lot for like the next 3 years of my life.
What day is it today? October. Snooty Magazine Day. And the magazines, I won't say what they are because they're not PC nowadays, but the last one when he's like, oh.
Yeah.
Every time it gets me, dude. Is that it, Dad? Did the Penguin tell you to do this?
Yeah. Jesus Christ. That and God, I can never remember her name, but she was Sonya in the Mortal Kombat movie.
Well, she's Veronica Vaughn in this, but her real name is it Brittany? Is her first name Brittany?
We'll figure it out right now.
Look at
because of this wonderful thing called.
I knew it forever. Please excuse my not blowing, everybody. I'll cut this out. I'll try to cut as many of those out as I can. Not making any promises.
Bridget Wilson.
Bridget Wilson.
Yeah, Bridget Wilson.
Empress. Was she married to Pete?
I don't know. I don't know
Holy
anything about it. That's
shit.
just what it says on our IMDb. But yeah, man,
crazy.
I was smitten
Oh, I was
in the
very
90s.
fond of her. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
so yeah, all around great fucking movie. Always worth the rewatch. It's probably not something that you could I would like. It's not something I could watch over and over and over again these days. But I certainly fucking did back then. And yeah, it's like I said, the songs in the movie, like it's back to school and nothing like, even though there's the other one that's got the actual title, or the title of the movie is Back to School.
Yeah.
That's what it is for me.
And again, another pretty decent soundtrack. There's some good. All Adam Sandler's have really good songs in them.
Oh yeah,
Songs that I loved before I even saw the movies. But you got Culture Club, I'll Tumble for You,
yeah,
Renegade Sticks,
yep.
dude. The fucking scene where he calls up Steve Buscemi,
Yep.
get a little telephone line from ELO, and he puts on the lipstick. Do up, do up. That's one of our go-to sing along songs in our house. Love it.
Killer.
All right, man. Well, that wraps up Back to School.
Now we can all go back to school and
Prove to Dad that I'm not a fool.
yep.
Where can they go again to get the merch?
Mudamerch.com, MUDAMERCH.com.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. Follow whatever you have to do. Twitter at Your Popped, Instagram Who Popped Your Culture full, because it has enough space for all the characters. So that's why the Twitter one is a little shorter. Questions, comments, emails, popyourculture@gmail.com. We'll answer your questions either through email or on the show. And that's it. And then next month again, Alien versus Predator. We'll cover both franchises and we will rank our top 5 again.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty between the two of them. So
I think if we ranked the entire both franchises, that's kind of a lot.
if we did them individually.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about all of them, but
yeah. No, I think the top 5 favorite movies of both franchises.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Together.
Yep. Sounds good.
No need to do 2 different top 5s.
And with Predator, with the new Predator movie out, good time to do it.
Yep.
All right. We will talk to you next month. Adios.